One and all, to yet another episode of Wick TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural and silly to the serious, and there's nothing more serious than today's topic, titties, okay? We're gonna be talking about titties and ass and TNA in general, when it comes to gaming, media, uh, streaming, all sorts of things. Recently, with the release of Stellar Blade onto PC, within 72 hours of its release, it had countless mods made. Um, Raunchy is the word used to describe them, and probably the best word used on this stream. And people beforehand, when Stellar
Hey
Blade
everybody.
was quote unquote censored, and they covered up some of her cleavage and things like that, the main game character, people had a fit. They threw a fit. They refunded their purchases. They threatened to cancel. All these things. So the question for tonight is simple. Are Gooners ruining gaming? Or are they saving it? Are the big old titties saving gaming culture? Or are they ruining it? We're going to talk about it. We got some great guests. We got one more coming, maybe two more. We'll see if they show up. I'm going to pass the ball first to Mr. Soy Pill himself. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. Tell people who you are, what you do, and what are your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm the Soy Pill. I make video essays. I just posted one for members and patrons only. So all my members in my audience better not go watch that because this is more important. Because we got to talk about Gooners, guys. Look, I'm not here to shame hot women. I'm not here to shame jerking off. I personally love jerking off to hot women. It's fun. That's fine. My problem is with Gooners. Their stupid fucking over sexualization that ruins artistic integrity in video games. When games put half-naked booby ladies in places where they don't belong, clearly to appeal to a horny male audience, it's embarrassing and crosses into pornographic territory. Some examples: Stellar Blade, like Wick already mentioned, Quiet from Metal Gear Solid, Sarah Kerrigan from StarCraft. These are all examples of very obviously over-sexualized, completely out-of-place things that have to be post-hoc rationalized as, oh, she has to be naked because she breathes through her skin. It's so stupid. Sex is a natural part of human life, and I don't think we need sterile, unsexy, frumpy characters. Baldur's Gate 3 is a great game that sacrifices no artistic integrity when placing in nudity, hot people, or sex scenes. But the best armor isn't a floss string bikini that gives you plus 8,000 defense. Everything fits in the world. So Gooners, much like the worst of the woke, sacrifice story, character, and suspension of disbelief for their agenda. It sucks, and I'm tired of it. Go watch porn and stay out of my video games, you little fucking freaks.
Okay, well, we're starting. Speaking of little fucking freaks, Jack, welcome to the show.
Jeez,
Welcome
man, we
back.
haven't seen each other in weeks. And
True.
you come out. Right. Well, I
True.
like
What you
how
got for us, sir?
I've been trying to flip my camera so that my logo is correct, but you flipped your stream, so it's actually all right. It's very strange. Look, I don't know what Soy Pill's problem is, other than the fact that he's obviously on too much soy. He is right. Sex is a completely natural part of human life, and to the point where the bravest men and women in the world, the Celts, fought butt naked, covered in paint, and screaming like wild things. Some of the most incredible female characters to have ever come out of media in the last 20th century. I can name two off the top of my head that fight near naked: Red Sonja and Ripley from Alien. And there is nothing wrong with having a little bit of eye candy whilst you are watching them kick ass. Now, I do agree that there are certain portions of the internet that get a little bit too into the modding scene. I'm looking at you, Nexus, and the other place where you should never go, Simba. And I agree that yes, people do get their horn on for video game characters. However, sex, sexuality, and the use of sex and sexuality can be used to achieve different ends. And Stellar Blade has obviously used it to achieve an aesthetic, which, to be honest, is quite incredible. The music is great, the models are great, the sexiness is top tier. I am waiting to play it because my to play list is as long as my arm, and I've got books I need to read first. But I think it's incredible that we've sort of we're back in 2014, and I'm getting deja vu.
Okay. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. Welcome back to the show, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, as we go. Next up, last but not least, for now at least, until our other guests arrive, my favorite, Ice Beans. Go ahead.
Long time no see, Wick. All right. My position is a fairly simple one. I am a free market and free titty. I support that. I don't think that my positions of wanting good games with good stories and good mechanics means that I have to tell gooners not to goon. If they would like to goon, that is totally up to them. Video game developers are totally free to cater to gooners if they like, and I will simply, if you are somebody who doesn't like the goon content, you can simply put your money where your mouth is and support those video game devs that don't participate in that. I prefer to leave it up to, I prefer to give developers the freedom to do as they wish and burn spectacularly or become spectacularly successful. I'm totally fine with either way. I do not see the need to put a cap on video game devs or modders. Barring some, I'll make some concessions for some legal things, obviously, but for the most part, I am free the nip in this case.
Free the nip. Okay, well, Soy Pill, what do you have to say to that? Are you
Um,
anti-freedom, Soy Pill? Why are you
Yeah,
against
no,
freedom?
okay. So the idea, first of all, I don't think we should legislate against Gooner mentality, obviously, but the idea that this free market is somehow a good argument against it has always pissed me off because if you look at the most popular movies or any sort of like media, you can appeal to the lowest common denominator and make absolute fucking dog shit. You can look at all the Marvel slop that has been churned out in the past 5 years. You can look at like all the gambling that just takes advantage of people's addictive personalities and say, well, hey, it's the free market, and yeah, people are more drawn to this makes more money, and it's true, it does make more money, but that doesn't mean it's good. And what my problem is not the idea that someone can be horny in a video game. That's why I brought up Baldur's Gate 3. It's one of the horniest games I've ever played. There are people constantly trying to fuck you even when you don't try to fuck them. It is very much like a sex positive nudity game, and you can, I mean, the opening screen lets you like choose genitalia, how big and small you want the dicks to be, whether or not you want them to be circumcised. You can do all the booby customization, all that, although I don't think there's a booby slider, unfortunately. But what really sucks is when they use these gooner mentalities to sacrifice what would otherwise be a good story. So if you want to talk to me about, hey, we shouldn't desexualize games, or hey, we should let people pick what they want, of course. But however, I think that we should be advocating for better media. Just because it's allowed, just because it's the free market, doesn't mean it's good, right? Quiet is a dog shit character. I'm sorry. There's no reason for someone to be dressed like that in the game. The only reason is because it's hot, and it doesn't make any sense in universe. She's gonna get fucking fried by the sun out in Metal Gear Solid. So it pisses me off when you sacrifice good story so that you can get horny and jerk off. That's my problem. If you want to contend with that, cool. But if you want to say we should be allowed to have gooners in the games, yeah, sure. I just think they suck.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: is that I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think the bigger question is that, because here's the other thing. I mean, and this I guess does speak to the question, because I can agree with you on in the sense that I would prefer to have games that have a balanced sense of, like, putting sexuality where it's needed, where, as opposed to just kind of slapping it on there to appeal to a certain demographic or whatever else. Like, I have no problem with that whatsoever. I haven't played Baldur's Gate myself, but like have heard and watched quite a bit of it, so I do understand and take your points. But my preference is to just, instead of focusing on telling the gooners to stop, I'm more interested in supporting, like, actually, like, supporting the games that do have the good content, so to speak.
Right.
Like you mentioned, for example, you mentioned like the woke stuff in like in shows or whatever, and like, you can talk about DEI and stuff. I like it when it's done well and it doesn't like clash with certain other things in the story whatsoever. I have no problem with diversity, for example, but it has to be done well, right? And so, of course, if you have like you have the general environment being more conducive to race swapping and all those kinds of things. But I like to see it as the things that rise to the top are those movies, are those shows that do it well and incorporate it without it being too ham-fisted. And I think I just think the same is true of like the Gooner content.
Yeah,
I guess what do
let me
you
be
what do
clear,
you have
just
to say
because
to that?
maybe you don't know my politics. So when I said woke, that wasn't a
Mhm.
criticism of the concept
No, that's
woke in the
fine.
same way the right wing people do it. It's when
Sure.
you notice bad media and call it woke when these people do it, because it's not because it's woke. It's not because there's a brown character. It's not because they put a girl in it. It's because it has bad writing, and the writing has been supplanted by also someone's woke agenda. So I'm fine with woke games. I'm fine with diversity, like you said. Baldur's Gate 3 is another example of, hey, this game's really woke. It's got gay people in it. It's got all sorts of, you can have a man voice and a female genitalia. It's like whatever. But the problem is that, yeah, you notice woke stuff when it's bad writing, and then they just blame it on woke. In the same way, I'm not going to blame Gooners for making the game bad, but there is some degree of... What's up, Wick?
Why not? Let's look at Stellar Blade as an example, and this is to your point too, Ice Beans, right? You said you want to give developers the most latitude that they possibly can have. Stellar Blade's a perfect example of this. The Gooners, because the developers wanted to censor it a little bit, right? They're like, this is a little too much, right?
Well,
And
the
they toned it
publisher
down.
wanted to censor it, which I think is the when we're talking about this controversy, and I followed it a little bit. It's not really my kind of thing. I'm more interested in the principles behind the entirety of the conversation. The publisher was the one that tried to impose censorship upon the artistic expression of the developer. Now, you might not like the artistic expression being as sexy as it is. That's entirely personal preference. The issue that people like Grums and Asmongold and that sort of streamer crowd had was that it was the developer attempting to censor a final product when the demand for the product was for the original uncensored offering. And so the controversy was that it wasn't that the developers wanted to make her less hot, because good God, look at the amount of time they spent scalping her ass. It is because the publisher said this is going to offend certain people, maybe people with too much soy in their diet, and there you are.
I'm not offended by how sexy they are. I think it's embarrassing, frankly, because when I play a game like Stellar Blade, first of all, incredibly, incredibly derivative of something like Nier Automata. The gameplay
Yes,
itself
that's
is
the
very
idea.
repetitive and not, in my opinion, not very good, although it's not my type of game, so I can't comment that well on it. But the problem is when you have a cast of characters that all are these like hyper pornified, samey looking people, because it doesn't really matter that it makes sense in the game. It just matters that every character has to be hot. Every character always has to be appealing to male sexuality. I'm not offended by it. It just kind of sucks. It's worse because you
Are we
could
not
have
allowed to
a
appeal to
vast
male
variety of
sexuality?
characters. Sorry?
We're not allowed to appeal to male
I didn't say you're
sexuality?
not allowed to. I just think it's lazy and not as good as when
You
you'd have a
framed it
variety
as
of characters.
you framed it as a criticism.
This is a criticism, but when you're saying you're not allowed to, that's very different. I'm not prescribing that we
So
can't
no,
do this.
you
I'm saying
said
this sucks.
it appeals to male sexuality as if that was an
It's
issue.
it's
is
appealing to
something
male
that
sexuality in a way that sacrifices the integrity of the realism of the world and the suspension of disbelief. For
well,
example,
let me take
the
that point.
outfits
Did
that
you
they
say
wear in
realism?
Stellar
Did you
Blade
say
are
realism of the
ridiculous.
world? I'm not a fan of this particular argument, but I'm going to make it because I find it ironic that I would. You're saying Quiet is a terrible character because it breaks your suspension of disbelief because she's in the midday sun and she's next to naked. If I'm not mistaken, don't they set a giant flying whale on fire in the first few minutes of that game? Is that the same game? Is that the same
Probably,
universe?
yeah. But
So
the idea
probably.
that
So you've not actually played it.
I haven't played that part of it. I've only played through the middle when you're going to and
That's
from
the
the ship.
beginning part of it.
I didn't play
Like
it
the
in
way
order.
you're escaping from the hospital. I've not played it. I've watched someone else play it.
I play
But
on
what
other people's PlayStations, unfortunately.
My point is that there is if you've not played it using it.
Wait, neither of you have played the game. Let's be clear.
But no,
neither of you have played the
I've
game.
never played the game.
It's not
start
my
to finish.
example.
I've played the game.
It's his example. What I'm saying is,
I just want to set the stage here. Is that
this
you're
is
both
the
talking about
example-
something neither of you have
No,
played.
this is the
I
example.
have played
that
it.
you-
I haven't played all the way through.
Yeah, and
He has
I
played
have
it.
watched it. I have watched a let's play of it because I was working. But the idea that you can take the giant flaming whale on the nose, but can't take a sexy lady showing a bit of skin.
So this is a little bit of a misrepresentation too, and maybe you don't know this, but it's not just she's sexy. It's one that she's literally naked, and they have to write a reason for her to be naked back into the game. But it's two, it's when you're in the helicopter, she's like showing her ass into your face like a
Yeah.
cat trying to get fucked. Like it's very embarrassingly like trying to appeal to this like like, oh, look how hot I am. And like the idea that she's literally this like perfect encapsulation of male sexual desire. She's, you know, perfectly sculpted. She doesn't talk. She's super servile to you. And it's like, this is fucking weird. It's dumb. And it's like,
That
yeah,
is
no, don't get me
normal
wrong.
human
There's
sexuality.
I understand that, but when when you're in the game, and I'm like, this is the same problem that people have with wokeness. It's not necessarily the wokeness; it's that the game is making you think about something completely irrelevant to the story and the world that you're in, because you're like, this is so fucking dumb. So if like I'm playing a fantasy game, and it has some sort of like, I don't know, non-binary character or some non-binary race, like maybe there's automatons, or maybe there's some Star Trek, you know, group of aliens that are agendered. That's
Like
usually
the Asari for Mass Effect.
yeah, like the Asari in Mass Effect, which, to be fair, are just all hot women. But you know, that is still an asexual thing, right? So that's fine, and that doesn't take you out of the game. But then when they say, "Whoa, excuse me, Commander Shepard, you just misgendered me," suddenly you're like, "Wait a minute, why am I hearing 2025 language in my game that's set like in the year 4000 or wherever the fuck Mass Effect takes place, or 2200 or whatever?" And it's like, this is what I mean when it's like, okay, there's nothing that's going to take me out of, even like a goofy flaming whale might like fit in the universe of Goofy Metal Gear Solid, where I'm hiding in a box and have a flaming fist that, you know, goes around and remote controls. But the problem is that like this very obviously pornographic, like, hey, look how hot I am, and not like a flirty person that you can romance, and that it's like they don't even need to have a character. Maybe they're just hot and they're trying to fuck you. Maybe they're literally a prostitute in game. But when the character's entire like existence is meant to goon to, that's when it's like, okay, why does it look like this? And you can tell that it's, well, I wanted to put a really fucking hot character in, and then I had to pretend like there was a good reason to do it, and that's when it's really clearly
but then
sacrificing
it
the
seems
writing.
like here, it
Japanese
seems like
writing.
Yeah,
So hold
Japanese
on,
writing
would you
is
have let
usually
a
bad, and I hate anime, just to be clear.
Okay, let's give
Would-
it to
would-
Ice Beans for a minute. Go ahead.
yeah,
please.
would you have a problem? Would you have less of a problem with it if they didn't try to provide the bullshit explanation for the fan service content?
That's just like the insulting cherry on top, where you pretend like there's a good reason to do it. And like if they, I would at least admire their honesty if they're like, I like hot women so much that I'm willing to sacrifice the integrity of my game, and how you know, everything makes sense. I'm just gonna say there's a naked woman always at all times in the corner of my screen, picture in pictured, so that I can always goon to it. It would be like, yeah, this is still stupid. However, at least you're being honest that you're just a horny motherfucker. I think the line is crossed when it's like, this might as well be porn. Why don't you just go watch porn? Why are you putting it in this video game?
Because he
I mean,
wanted to, and he's an artist.
I'm aware that's his intention.
I think, okay, to put the question of Stellar Blade to the side for a second, because I like, for me, Stellar Blade isn't necessarily, I mean, I do realize that there's some issues between, like, you know, the publisher and the devs. That kind of makes sense to me, right? But the modding question is not so much of, you know, that people made mods isn't so strange to me. People have been making mods since games have kind of existed that can accept a mod, and lewd or nude ones at that. So, you know, the gooning, depending on what your definition of gooning is, it could go back as far as like some pretty old fucking games. But as far as like the actual goon content in a game, I still don't see how, like, if you simply don't like that content, and you think that it could be done better, I guess, is that the only thing that's turning you off from playing this game? Like, is that the only reason why you would otherwise happily play this game, except it's the big titty or big ass women?
This doesn't even stop me from playing the game. My idea is to shame this kind of content out of games, not legislate it, obviously, but just to say, like, this is embarrassing, like, this shouldn't be in games, and it's frankly just stupid. And like, an example I might bring up is, I forgot which God of War this is, but there's a God of War game where like one of the rewards for beating a boss is like you go and you do like a sex mini game with like Aphrodite. And it was very much in the era where this was much more prevalent of, hey, like, this has absolutely nothing to do with the gameplay. You're literally just mashing buttons, but here's this naked woman moaning every time you press X. This is just to appeal to like the male.
I can actually speak to this because
Yeah.
God of War. I remember we had Jaffe on,
We did have him on. Yes, I remember.
the developer of God of War.
Yes.
And he was an interesting fellow. We didn't get on. The but I'm going to defend him here because you're saying, oh, there's no reason for Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, love, and sex, to have a sexy mini game
That's not.
in a god.
Well, hold on. Don't
Come
misrepresent
on, man.
me. I didn't say you can't shoehorn it in by saying, well, she's the goddess of sex. I'm saying the fact that it's in there is not because it's like, I really respect Greek mythology as the developer of this game, where this random
That's
character
not
I
what they
created
were
go
going
through
for at all.
and kill every fucking god. It's more about the fact that it's like, why is this in here? Oh, because wouldn't it be hot if we had a naked person to appeal to our male teenage audience? And that's why they put
Okay,
it in.
can
And I just think it's
I
kind
let
of
me
lame.
can I make a positive case for the inclusion of sex and sexuality in products like this, just to sort of reframe a little bit before we
Sure, but
continue
just to
on
be
just
clear, again, I'm
complaining
not
that it exists?
anti-sex in games.
It sounds like it.
I literally,
But
my
look,
opening example was Baldur's Gate 3, which was one of the
well,
sexiest,
Baldur's
horniest
Gate
games
3
of
is
recent.
something. The Baldur's Gate 3 we can touch on because I have made more than a few people upset by my quite scathing critiques of that game.
Okay.
Well,
I really like
and
it, so we
I
can fight
find
about it.
that a couple of the sex scenes in that are terribly done. But that's me because I have sat there and I've made the same argument you're making, but in regards to Baldur's Gate 3, where I played through, I got to camp, and all of a sudden they wanted to have an orgy. And I was sat there going, I just want to slay a dragon. However, I am also of a Dragon Age Origins background, back in the day, where Leliana is the first and foremost waifu of my life. Sorry, my wife that is in the other room. But the idea that so sex can be done well, and you can build up to it and tell a fantastic story. But that's
What's
not
the
the
best
only...
sex in a video game you've ever had?
I don't think I'm allowed to say it on stream.
Why not?
Can you mention the name of the game?
Skyrim.
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 I don't think you can
Skyrim.
have sex in
Skyrim,
vanilla
Modded
Skyrim, can
Skyrim.
you?
I'm sorry, modded Skyrim.
No, not well. You can do modded Skyrim. That makes it incredibly more interesting. But no, when you go to sleep with your spouse, you wake up with something another buff. So I'm just going to say that to get out of this question and carry on with my main point. My main point is
Okay,
that
all right.
humans have expressed sex and sexuality in a myriad of ways for a myriad of reasons since our beginning. You've got the Venus statuettes all the way back in Çatalhöyük in Turkey, and that's some of the most early archaeological evidence we have of like the religious activity surrounding fertility goddesses. You've got statuettes outside throughout the subcontinent of India of some incredibly voluptuous ladies, which could actually pass for modern day anime characters in their proportions. You've got some very interesting writing coming out of the Greeks and Roman worlds as to what they got up to. You've got vases with some very flagrant paintings on there. So when we look at the way that humans use and express sexuality throughout our art expressions, there's a myriad of forms. And we also use it to set off grander stories. Now, I've hosted quite a few topics on the idea of eroticism in genre fantasy. You might be able to tell from my livery here that I am a fantasy kind of guy. That is what I do. In fact, Wick was going to be on this show, but he cancelled on me, the bastard. Where I hosted a topic.
I did not cancel. You had
I-
to reschedule the show.
I
for a
fucked up the
conference.
time zones, all
Oh
right?
no!
But
Oh
I
no!
hosted a big show on the use of erotica within fantasy storytelling to get across different points. I brought up Red Sonja earlier on. She is very much a victim of SA, I'm told I have to use in this crowd. And through that experience, a goddess gives her the
Sexual
power.
assault. You can just say it. We don't
Okay,
have
yeah, well, it's a
verbal
bit more than that. This is
cowardice,
Conan's
you know.
universe. But she was given the ability by a goddess to become this amazing swordswoman, and no man could lay with her lest he beat her in fair combat. And she goes around in next to nothing kicking ass. Belit, Queen of the Black Coast, is very similar. She's a queen that uses her beauty and her sexuality to rule over a lot of very rowdy sailors. But they're also still women. They keep these parts sort of private for their main love interest, so to speak, you have, which is Conan. And you get a lot of this artwork coming out of these really beautiful women who are fierce and strong and powerful hanging off his arm, because it presents to the reader a sort of pairing that is the apex, and this is a Greek idea, the apex of what a human pairing should look like. And then you also have other examples where you've got the Drizzt Catti Bree story, which goes on for about 20 books before they sleep together. So, you know, there is plenty of sexuality being put forward in all sorts of media, and you're not going to shame people out of it because they've been doing it since time immemorial.
Yeah, so my idea of
Just
shaming.
before you respond, I got a couple super chats and people pay me money to say words, so I'm gonna have to do that, and then I'll pass it right back to you.
Okay.
$2 from Zephyr Ash to say better tatas make better stories, and that's a fact. Thank you for the $2. Zetsway for $10 says Quiet's outfit is 100% for girls to cosplay. Kojima said this specifically, but her breathing through her skin is cool. She's a sniper who doesn't have to hold her breath to steady her aim. Thank you for the $10. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to give it back to you to respond.
So, again, I think you're misconstruing a couple of my arguments here because there are some of these things that I absolutely agree with, like the history of sex and all that. Like these are all things that I think are like, yeah, of course. This is not necessarily bad to have sex as part of a story or sex to like further a character. However, when Googling the Red Sonja character, and I can't get her up here on screen, maybe I can screenshot at a certain point, but she is wearing like a chainmail bikini and is always showing
It's
her
the
midriff.
chainmail bikini lady.
And frankly, that doesn't make any sense in the universe of a melee combat, fantasy setting. It's an embarrassing reason to put someone in.
She is
to make
quite
them,
literally blessed by a goddess.
yeah, so you can make your bullshit fantasy reason to post hoc rationalize why they are naked, but they're naked because it's hot. That's to be clear. They
Yeah.
have to make up a reason
She's
afterwards in universe,
She's
and it
hot and
might
kick
make
ass,
sense.
and I'm sorry that threatens you.
I'm not threatened at all. I could probably kick this woman's ass, to be clear, because I'm a man. But let me be clear here.
That's not happening, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure in universe I would be the
Head on
peasant that would
spike
have
very
his head cut
quickly.
off. No. But the point is that
I'm pretty sure Conan would be quite upset if you tried it.
That's true. Yeah, he would kill me. No. The point here is not that people can't be hot, right? You look at Baldur's Gate 3. I'm going to keep coming back to this. There's lots of hot characters. I think pretty much every main character in your
By the
party.
way, have you seen the modding scene for Baldur's Gate 3?
Yeah, I've seen the Withers, big hodonkalolonkalers like mod too.
People are going to keep doing this, man. You're not
right, you can make them even more overtly sexualized. But the point is, every single one of those characters is conventionally attractive and can get naked, and you can fuck every single one of them. The reason it's different is because all of that stuff makes sense in a universe, right? None of those people wear chainmail bikinis that suddenly make them the most powerful, greatest, like fighter ever. However, if you get naked, technically I think you are a little more agile, which would make sense. It's stupid. You shouldn't do it. You have no protection. But this character that you've just pointed out, Red Sonja, is like embarrassingly so clearly drawn to be pornographic and then rationalized afterwards. Okay, well, how can I make this less, like just I'm doing this to make her naked? That's fine that you enjoy it. I just think it's bad writing and it's embarrassing.
A little bit of a housekeeping here. We do have one more guest who's made it and joined it. Tuna Chip is coming in to fight the Gooners, okay? And he's going to jump in. And
no way.
I was beating them off just fine.
Okay, I know you're beating off all the Gooners just fine by yourself, but Tuna Chip really wanted to say hi and
was that a
stop
Spinder icon? Man, he had a Spinder as his icon. I'm 12. I've been transported back.
Yeah, it's a little bit past my familiarity. That's 1 or 2 generations past mine, but regardless. I just want to interject because I feel like this is an ageless conversation that can really go down one direction.
You guys.
But 2 primary points.
Look at that.
2 things with
Very
this like
necessary.
recent era of gooning and recent like the way that sex is in modern media is not how it was before. The sex culture we have now is not as it was before. So this idea that sex has eternally been in media, not the sex that we have now, and not the representations of sex that we have now. The fidelity, the access, the cultural container that media is inside of right now is way, way, way different. You couldn't, the thing about, say, a written or orally transmitted sexual document back in the past was it was limited by space and time, and it was an expression of just like, yeah, people are horny, people want to have sex, but there was an intimacy with the people that were making it. There was an intimacy with the people that were reading it and the context in which they were having it. What we have now is, ironically, the desexualization of sexual media, where it's no longer sex, it is pure pornography. It is separated from the act of sex. Do you understand what I mean by this?
Not talking about porn, though, are we?
We are talking about porn because
we're talking about erotica.
Sexual propaganda. Sexual propaganda. It's
that's
like
not pornography.
It's like you are looking at it, and the point of it is to cause the stimulation. Versus before, erotica is very much so meant to entice a person to go out and do sex. We don't have that same climate. You're not playing God of War, seeing tits on it and thinking, you know what, I'm gonna go pursue sexual intimacy in my real life. The act of watching it and playing it isn't actually promoting sexual intimacy. You pursue sexual intimacy in spite, not due to. I really doubt that you were playing a Gooner game and then said to yourself, you know what I really need to do? Put down the controller and find a wife. No one said that in their entire life.
Hold on. What? Wait,
Okay.
are you
I don't know about that.
are you implying that
Ice
that
Beam
was
first.
the case before? I'm sorry, Tuda, are you implying that that was the case before, that eroticism in games before would
No.
lead you to go find a lady and give it
Not
to
in
her
games.
with all of your
Not in
might?
games. Not in games. I'm not talking about like, oh, the decline of sex in games. I'm saying that when people make arguments where it's like, oh, look at the Romans, look at the Greeks, look at early media. Sex has always been in media. Sex used to be a bigger part of our lives, and media used to be more connected to actual physical space and other human beings than it is now. We're more isolated with our media diet and consumption now than ever. Sex
Well,
in
it's
video
okay.
games is not even sex. It's pure pornography. That's the thing about it.
But we're not talking about pornography.
Well, this is
No,
he's trying to draw on the.
saying that
Can I
it's
really
he's
quickly,
saying that
guys?
it's akin to pornography.
He's
Okay.
saying it's
I don't think
pornographic
we should-
insofar
But I
as
just
when you
don't-
should
have.
not allow this equivocation to be made because it is a fallacy for one, and for two, it's not what we're talking about. You can pull the face if you like, my friend, but we're talking about a game which, you know, there is risque outfits and there is boob physics, but there is
Yes,
no.
that's porn.
Oh,
No, there
That's
is
porn.
no.
hold
there is
on,
no-
hold on.
Yeah, no, Lore, you have to ask yourself when you, like, depending on what this is, right? So, like, if you can get naked in Baldur's Gate, I would probably not call that pornographic, right? In the same way, I don't think that a sex scene in a TV show is necessarily pornographic. But if you look at the intent of why it is placed in the game, for example, if there was a 3-minute full frontal, you know, shot in fucking TV show, and it was like, they just keep fucking, that's a little more pornographic, right? You might be like, wait a minute, I'm
Game
not
of
watching a
Thrones.
show anymore. They're fully nude fucking, right? So when you're in the game and it's like, okay, there's boob physics insofar as like, yeah, we've just modeled this character. That's very different from Stellar Blade, where every single outfit is meant to sexualize the woman's body, has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not it protects them from the, you know, crazy organic creatures from the dystopian future. It's just meant to make you horny. That's it. Like, that's why it's
Oh
pornographic.
shit! If when you put it that way, I should probably go to confession.
Yeah.
Well, this
But I
isn't
guess
an
I mean,
argument
to
from-
me, okay, sorry, but it just means to me that like Stellar Blade is not your game, though,
It's just
That's a
personal
different
preference.
argument. Yeah.
right?
This is the
look,
issue.
Right,
I
that's
can
no,
advocate
I'm
for
saying no.
less bad
I
media,
legitimately
but yes.
I
no, and
disagree.
I mean that's fine. I'm just saying that like it just seems like it's not your media. That's all,
It's
right?
not. You're right.
It's not
And
necessarily.
it's not mine either.
We
I'm
do
to be
accept
clear, right?
Okay, if every video game had
You're not
like
Gooner game?
executing human. Come again?
I was just surprised Ice Beam's not into Gooner games. I thought she was, but that's okay.
No, I like different Gooner games. Okay, maybe not Stellar Blade, but
Oh,
let's
fair enough.
we'll see.
But I do want a little bit of housekeeping. We have a new guest, Star Nova. Welcome to the show.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Doing
Yo.
well. We're
Hello.
talking about gooning in games, and I figured she'd be great for this panel. Okay.
Why did you think that, Wick? Does Nova
I
play a
don't
lot
know,
of games?
Something came to me that you might be
Stand up,
very
Wick.
useful
Stand up.
to-
Stand up.
No, I'm just curious. Like,
Stand up.
Nova, are you a
Wick-
gamer? Do you play a lot of games?
Yeah, I like him.
Okay, but anyway, on with the show, on with the story, and
Or-
just jump in whenever you feel
Thanks
like.
for having me, by the
Of
way.
course. Go ahead.
So, what I'm trying to argue, and this is the thing about video games in particular, but as well as modern cinema, these are extremely dense products that are componential. And when a component is easily slotted into media, so much so that it feels like the returns for a business are infinitely it's always worth it, it will continue to be slotted in. Just like there are always lollies in anime, there seems to always be some element of sexuality, the degree to which gets more and more, I say controversial. Stellar Blade is a more controversial, but I'm saying that there is porn in the video game. The video game isn't purely porn, but we keep putting porn in the video game. I don't think that that's a good direction to go with culture, because I don't actually think that the arguments that hold that we are sexual creatures actually hold for this, because I don't think that that's the motive. I think that this is an isolation.
There is no
an
pornography.
isolatory form of sex. I wouldn't even call it sex. I would call it just touching yourself.
That's because there's no.
No, I think
there's no porn
Is that
in
what they're
you
doing,
just
touching
saw.
themselves?
Hold on. Let's go in order. We can't all talk over each other. Let's start with Jack. We'll go to Ice
I'm
Beams,
going to be
and then
really,
Star will jump
really
in. Go
quick.
ahead.
Okay.
It's just a sentence is like there is no porn in what you have just said. There is porn in, and we shouldn't be equivocating because it is a fallacy and it is plain wrong.
Would you let your boss let you play it at work? Do you think your boss would be okay with you playing Stellar Blade at
You'd
work?
be okay with me playing anything at work. However,
Okay, but if on your
this is
break,
the
if you were on the break in your lunchroom and you're playing
same
Stellar
man
Blade.
that did let me bring a Nintendo 64 in once.
Okay,
So,
fair enough. So your boss is an asshole, but what I'm saying is clearly one of these games is not safe for work. Versus if you were playing Kirby or N64, Smash
I don't
Bros, they'd
think
be
he'd
like,
give
"Oh,
a
you're just
shit
gaming."
because, look, he's seen some of the artwork I've had commissioned for some of my characters, and he gave me the
You want a
thumbs up,
5-year-old
so
to play
hello.
Stellar Blade? Do you understand the difference between a 5-year-old playing Stellar Blade
I was
and
wondering.
Okay, hold on.
I
Now
was
that's
wondering
this
when
is a
we get
different.
to this point.
This is a different argument altogether. Now you're talking about ratings.
No, I'm not talking about ratings. I don't believe in that shit. That's stupid. I'm saying we know that it's porn because we know who it's for. We know that a child's not going to understand the sexual undertones of Stellar Blade. We know that it's not being made to stimulate some, because they are underdeveloped for the thing it is attempting to realize inside of your body. It wants you to be erect.
Makes an equivocation.
Okay, but you could say
that fails. Accuses of pedophilia.
What?
Okay, hold on though. Wait. Tune up. No. Wait. Tune up.
Stupid.
But you could say, I'm
Retard.
sorry. You could say that literally about any other element in that game that is like, for example, if there's a mechanism in a game that literally equates to a dopamine button, like you could make the exact same argument against that. That's what you're saying, except about porn, right?
I'm saying
You're
that
saying
you
it's
know that
ham-fisted.
this is not a critique of the game. This is a critique of the argument that the thing inside of the video game is not porn. It is porn because it is made with and to the ends that porn is made with and to the ends of. There are things that you don't consider porn that are absolutely porn by the designer and by the purchaser.
Sonic
Why are you gonna just act
Sure,
as
but
if it's
what
such
I
a
think
rigidly defined
everybody. Okay, hold on a second. What you're considering to be porn is not pornographic for a lot of
Can
people.
you guys define pornographic?
And
Yeah,
Can either of you, Jack or Ice, define pornographic?
I'm actually reminded of a quote. I struggle to define pornography, but I know it when I see it.
I mean, I go by that
Okay.
definition as well. I was going to bring that up.
Does that not indicate that it's a little ambiguous, and especially when we can point at the intent of the author to cause erotic nature in the person playing the game, it might be
Again, you've
classified
equivocated
in porn?
eroticism and pornography.
But
These are
again,
equivocations.
That's why I'm asking you. You
But-
know it when you see it, so I guess if you don't think it is, it's not. That's the only definition I get.
hold on a second. Then can you? Okay, wait. Can you give me an example? Okay, can you give me
Welcome,
then an
Joseph. Thank
example
you.
of a game that is not a specific sex game? Okay, I'm not talking about those actual Gooner games on Steam. Okay, I'm talking about a game that uses Gooner elements that is on
Mortal
that
Kombat.
line for you.
any fighting game that has booba physics, Dead or Alive, Guilty Gear, Mortal Kombat,
Okay.
we know why it's there.
And you say, okay, wait, and you say that is pornographic.
There's porn in the game, yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right. And you're saying that porn being in the game is a detriment to said game.
Yes, and to culture at all, yes.
Okay.
I'd
like to hear it. The explanation.
Yeah, I do want to give a chance for Star to get in here. I don't want to get talked over and things like that.
No, it's
what are
okay.
your thoughts? Go ahead.
I'm still
My thoughts
listening. I'll be right back.
are some of it's looking a little X-rated, in my opinion.
Little X-rated. Can you give us some examples?
Well, if what I'm pulling up, I have not played this game, by the way. So from if what I've just pulled up is what's in there, that's a little on the.
Which one did you pull up? Stellar Blade?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wanna be
no, it's
careful Googling
absolutely
that.
a Gooner game for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
that's
The thing that
pretty.
sucks, the thing that sucks about Stellar Blade is it's a Gooner game only insofar as the main character front and center, in the same way that 2B, but to a greater extent, Nier Automata, is sexualized. But the rest of the game, there are games where every single enemy has big cocks and tits and is naked. This is a game. This is why I think Stellar Blade is a good example of the argument, which is it is not a clean division. It is putting the porn of the game front and center and then using the rest of the game as this container, which tries to justify the fact that, oh, well, don't even worry, put it on the PS5. It's definitely not sexual content, while we are seeing people put their foot further and further in the door to create this. And I'm saying this because this is so hard. This is so hard for people to accept, but to put something that has nothing to do with sex and has everything to do with masturbation into the game.
But now but now this is an argument about ratings and what is whether
No,
a
it's
platform
not.
is it
It's
absolutely is. You're
I'm
saying
not
that
talking about ratings. I'm not an ESRB
you're talking about what is allowed on the platform, what is
No,
allowed to be
No,
marketed.
I'm not.
Let
this
me-
is
as
not
well.
about
let me try.
legislating an allowance. Ice. What he's saying is you can clearly draw a distinction between let's say a very hyper-sexualized character who, let's say there's like a prostitute in a game, right? And this prostitute, her whole character is that she seduces people. Like in universe, this could absolutely be a way to have eroticism and have a character that makes sense that does it and put sex in your game. However, when you have the main character of Stellar Blade, which again, I haven't played all the way through this. I've played very, very little of this game. I don't think this character is like going around trying to seduce men. I think she's going around chopping up organic freaks in the dystopian future. But the reason that she is half naked the whole time is not because being half naked is like some way to make her more agile. It's not because any of these other like bullshit reasons that Kojima puts in his games. It's because it's hot. It's because they want
It's because
people
it's
to be
the grand
turned
sin
on.
against the feminist religion, eh?
Yeah.
Sex
So
sells.
you can
You
keep
can't find a
strawmanning.
woman hot.
I've never,
Oh,
I
can't
never
do
said
that.
you can't find a woman hot. I think there's plenty of games that have hot women in it that are not trying to like pornograph. Like look at her ass. Her ass. The camera is specifically centered
Perfectly
around her.
crafted,
Here's a
yes.
good example, actually.
On
Mass Effect
purpose.
2. You remember Miranda from Mass Effect 2? She has a skin tight suit.
Of course.
I'm sure in universe this makes sense, right? However, the camera will just for no reason at
doesn't.
all pan to her ass in random dialogue shots. Not because
Oh,
there's
there's a
anything
reason.
on
It's
her
great.
ass. It's just
There's a
say,
reason.
hey,
great.
look at her fucking ass right now. And it's not in necessarily the romance scenes. It's just to be like, hey, teenage Mass Effect player, isn't this hot? Go jerk off to this. And it's embarrassing.
Beans, I understand that you like it, but you have to recognize, and this is the thing, I support the creation of de-sexing mods. I think that people should be making mods that de-sex games in the same way that people currently force sex into games, so that games become playable again. For people that don't want to just deal with the constant inundation of this shit. But
Yeah.
the point is, sex is not, and I should say, it is not something that you put lightly into a game. It is not this random element that you put into a game. It's not like a dodge mechanic where people are putting it in on accident or because the flavor of the week. Porn has never been the flavor of the week. Porn has been the flavor of always forever, secretly sliding itself in like a greasy cock into your ass. It just wants
Okay,
to
but you
be
haven't
there.
you haven't
Based
you
on
haven't
analogy.
explained you haven't explained why the greasy cock in your ass is a bad thing. Go ahead, Tuna. I'm waiting.
Wait. Is there actually
You
any
still haven't
sex
Great
explained
in
that.
Stellar
analogy.
Blade? Is there actually any sex in Stellar Blade?
I
Is
don't
she
care.
at any point
I don't care
ever?
if there's person-on-person intimacy. The whole point is that the designer was making the character with the intent to create sexual stimulation in the player.
Let me just make sure that we are perfectly level with how I'm viewing what you're saying to me. The game is porn. There is no actual sex in the porn game. Therefore bad.
No.
It doesn't seem like
I'm
what
talking-
you are constructing something based purely on your subjective opinion that you don't like the fact that a female character is designed in such a way, based off a model actually, so she's an actual
I don't care
Kirby.
what the sex of the character is. I don't care about this particular game. Also, I wouldn't define the game as porn. I would say that there's porn in the game. There are multiple statements I've said that you've erroneously ignored.
You as a good Catholic boy. If you were one of my previous popes, you'd be going around the Vatican knocking all the penis Jews.
Jack, can I give you an example of this? Like, okay, you would agree that without sex, you could have a erotic photo of a naked woman presenting herself, sexually, right? This is like clearly, it would still be pornographic, but would not be.
This is actually something
yes.
I played devil's advocate for with a guy called Lord Mateus over on my stream, and that is, I don't believe this is the case.
I'm sorry.
But I asked him,
if so,
can
are you telling
porn
me a
be art?
naked woman maybe masturbating would not be porn?
Well, I would consider that pornography.
Okay,
Is
cool.
that in Celebrate?
Wait, hold on. Wait, let me finish. If a game rewarded you by beating levels with pictures of naked women or scantily clad women, would you consider that pornographic? Or would you say, well, it's just part of the universe that the characters in this game like to reward the main character with photos of themselves?
Apples and oranges here, Soypill. Because
I'm not talking about... I'm giving you a hypothetical. Please engage with it.
We have gone from talking about a video game in which shows an attractive woman kicking ass to here is a game which rewards you with specific sex scenes and acts of a sexual
I'm
nature.
trying to make an argument, and we can move from there. So would you consider that pornographic?
Hold on, gang.
One Gooner at a time.
What exactly? One Gooner at a time. That's all I can handle. I'm a newbie on the Gooner thing. Okay,
Can I tag in?
Sure.
Just real quick.
As long as you don't threaten me with your knife.
What do you think a cutscene in Bayonetta is, if not a reward, a sexually illicit reward for beating the enemy?
Is she masturbating in it?
Is she masturbating in it? No, she's her brassiere is snapping open. Buttons are shooting everywhere. Her tits going out. Her face is flush. She makes an orgasm sound. She often bends her arches her back in ecstasy.
So you got a bit of fan service going on there.
Yeah, what is fan service?
Is there any nipples?
Jesus Christ, dude! You're
actually,
okay. This is very obvious,
I think.
But like, if you were to censor bar over like Japanese people doing their porn, does it stop being porn?
Oh, but it's not pornography, is it?
What makes it pornography? Because again, the only definition you've given is I know it when I see it.
It sounds more artistic.
I take a picture of your child doing the exact same
And
thing.
here we go again with
Her nipples are covered up.
All right, maybe not that one.
Do I go to jail?
Okay. But you get hit like look, we're going into dangerous territory here.
Yeah.
I want to.
Any expression of human sexuality must be pedophilia.
Just a minute.
You don't get the fucking point, man. You recognize that if a child was doing it, it would be sexual content. But when it's an adult and you don't see nipple, you want to.
No, he's just not agreeing. He's just not agreeing. He's just not agreeing that it meets that. He doesn't meet.
You are equivocating.
Let me ask you guys something.
What do you okay, do you care about the difference between sexual content with the intention of creating stimulation and porn?
What was it you saying, Nova?
I was going to say, back in the day, you guys had bikini calendars, lingerie calendars, all of those types of things kind of fell more under, like the old Budweiser commercials and Tool Time with Taylor on Home Improvement. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not always erotic doesn't necessarily mean pornography. So are we talking more artistic? Yeah. No, I don't think that's porn.
It was porn.
A bikini model? That's not porn.
Yeah. When you put a bikini model in something specifically to be gooned to be gawked at, that is porn. That is the point of porn.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, are we talking about in various, revealing clothing, or are we talking specifically, basically almost sexual acts? Because erotic does not necessarily mean porn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is exactly what I was saying just before you got here.
By the way, I used to do some of that stuff. Okay,
really?
So that hence me, yeah. So hence me.
Sex worker.
Nope.
Sex worker.
Nope.
Hold on.
Just calendar.
But
fully clothed.
Again, Tuna, can we go back to why the greasy cock in the ass is bad? You still have not substantiated that. I get because that is our disagreement. Because here's the problem: I don't think you and I know what you're not gonna agree. You're not gonna agree. Like, this is a loop. We're not gonna agree that what you say is porn is like erotica, right? But why is it bad? Go ahead. Like, are you saying, like, for example, I would say that the pornography, if I'll concede to using your framing in Mortal Kombat, like, I have no issues with it. Like, it's a part of the game. It's ridiculous, and it's a part of the game, just like the excessive blood. Right?
The issue is that the portrayal of women in that game is not, hey, what would a, massive, cool fighter who's like ripping people's hearts out look like? It's how can we make the sexiest, hottest, gooneriest character that people want to jerk off to, and then also then rationalize why they're in this fighting tournament, especially when this is a problem with Mortal Kombat characters that aren't just the Gooner ones. They all look exactly the same, and it's just like, okay, this is very clearly just meant to titillate. It's meant to sell the game to younger male audiences, and the reason it's bad is because it makes the game worse insofar as it's not as good as it could be when you have a game like Baldur's Gate 3, which I would say literally has porn in it. They have two naked people having sex in it, and it's like, you know what? The reason I'm not like this game makes sense is because this is something that is built up to as part of the story. People aren't like running around and like fucking you as part of the mechanic to be like, oh, you want to keep playing, you want that dopamine hit, like I'm gonna take off my clothes. It's more of a, hey, you're in a game, you're fighting, your female characters get more clothed as they want to become stronger and more defensive, because obviously that's how it works. It makes sense in game. But also, if you want to have an intimate relationship after you've built up something, you can. That's the point, is that something with good writing knows how to put even pornographic material in the game without ruining and sacrificing the story, whereas before it was used as a crutch to sell to the mostly young male gamer audience. It's just kind of lame.
Wait, hold on. Are you seriously telling me that, like, that Melina in Mortal Kombat, like, is a detriment to the game, like, because she's like
the
very
character
scantily
design of all the scantily clad women. Melina actually might be an exception.
I mean,
isn't she like some sort of succubus character versus the other ones are just, hey, I'm the.
I mean,
Katana,
I know some of them are recolors and shit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
So the point is not that the concept of a seductress is bad in the game. The point is that all of these characters are meant to be Gooner, booby ladies, because it's meant to appeal to the young male audience.
But they can still provide value though to the game.
I didn't say
and
they
still
couldn't.
end up becoming iconic characters in their own right.
I didn't say
right?
they couldn't do that. I'm saying that it's worse than when you actually write good characters into the game and it makes sense for why they're dressed a certain way. Not, they all look this way because in the Mortal Kombat universe you have to wear the bikini or else you get disqualified or whatever.
No, and I agree that
the story in Mortal Kombat is secondary to the whole bunching and blood and guts and
yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's like the story of these games is just, I feel like, at least as far as Mortal Kombat is it feels very tacked on afterwards, right? Like so I don't give a shit as to like exactly what their reasoning is, even if it's a bad reasoning, because that's not why I'm playing the game. I'm playing the game so that I can like pick Baraka or and no, I mean that wasn't. I only played Baraka whenever I could on the games that had right. But like,
if I may though,
the little arms guy, yeah.
I think that, we're kind of missing Tuna's point. I'm going to jump in a little bit, and then I'm going to introduce Joe Lewis, who graciously agreed to join us. Thank you for joining us, Joe Lewis. The point, I think, and Tuna can correct me if I'm wrong, that he is trying to make is that by focusing on this erotica, pornography, he calls it pornography, but sexuality in these games, it's hurting our culture in a way that it hasn't before, because it is designed to keep you there and have you stimulate yourself, right? Or to stimulate you while you're alone in your room by yourself. Whereas before, with the art in ancient times, with other things, erotic storytelling that was done orally, that was more of a group thing where you would go out into the group and mingle and socialize. And so, if I'm correct,
smartest kid, I'm just saying it's dumb and cringe, and I think we should have less of it. Not that it should be illegal or censored.
That it's designed and placed there by design to get mostly young men to jack off and stay at home.
Yeah, by and large. And also,
I agree with that.
I would go further to say that. Say it again?
And that's harmful.
Yeah, it's harmful. I also think that it is both the symptom and the cause, in that we are creating a feedback loop of individualistic sexuality, which is divorced from the common culture. People, like, we know that there is a decline in sex, there's a decline in going out for any reason at all. And it's because I think that sex is actually a primary motivator in socialization, even with friends, not even just necessarily with the opposite sex or the target sex, whatever you want to call it. We're looking at something, even like the book talk erotica stuff. I don't care about the term erotica here. I would still call it pornography, in that what is extremely clear is that the person is not indulging the development of their personal sexual identity and preferences. They are instead entering an isolatory environment, which is increasingly more extreme, and the extremity of it makes it so that it is more divorced from your real life.
But then why is this related? Why is this seemingly
I'll ask him, Evan.
like there could be other aspects of these games that tie into that? Why is gooning specifically, or fan service type qualities, which are not, again, not new? Why is that the focus here? Like,
well, it's not the
rather than the other other elements of it, like gambling elements, for example, or gotcha, the whole gotcha shit.
Right. I would make the same arguments about that, Ice, right? Like gambling, especially in a game where it doesn't make sense. So, for example, in Pokemon, when you go to the casino and you have to gamble to win some prize, sure, whatever. However, when it's like, hey, we've put gotcha, keys and crates into this game, and we're constantly trying to get you addicted to this thing, and it doesn't have really anything to do with the integrity of the story or the gameplay. It's just a mechanic to keep you doing it longer, and you're sacrificing some sort of better game for this dumb element, especially that preys upon a natural human instinct like sexuality. That makes it worse. And by the way, just to be clear, I'm not advocating for censorship or making this illegal necessarily, although maybe with the gambling thing and kids. I'm more advocating for, look, if you criticize bad media, if you get more people to understand why you think it's bad and they agree with you, less people will purchase it in the free market, and then more people will make good media that I actually want to consume. So that's why I think games like Stellar Blade should be criticized, not that they should be censored, not that they're bad. And
Respond
also,
real quick.
Wait, real quick. You play Sisters of Battle in Warhammer, right?
I do.
What do you think about the Repentia?
The Repentia?
Repentia, yeah. The ones that wear the piece of tissue paper over their boobs.
Yeah, they've been stripped because they're punished. They're meant to go in and through blood and battle redeem themselves.
So they get more clothes the more battles they win?
Well, actually, more armor.
Stupid
right?
point, because dwarf slayers in fantasy.
Hold on, no, I want to answer this, right? And then we'll toss it
Someone
to
in
you
my
guys,
chat
and
asked me about it. I'm just curious because it looks funny.
But through the lore, they are meant to go into the heart of battle, to the hardest fighting, and rely only on their faith in God. And so they are purposely stripped of their protections, their worldly protections, to rely on the faith in the Emperor.
Gotcha.
To protect them. So it's not for gooning purposes. It's for lore.
I've seen Twitter.
Sure thing.
I've seen Twitter.
I'm just saying it is. I don't know what to tell you. Joe, welcome to the show. What are your thoughts? Gooning and gaming? Are you a gooner?
No.
No.
I'm not a gooner in gaming. So I guess catch me up. Like, first off, my bad. I thought you guys started at 7. I keep forgetting you start at 6 o'clock. So that's my bad. So where are we in the conversation? So I can kind of understand. I don't want to rehash something and then we're going back an hour.
It's okay. We haven't made much progress. Go ahead.
Well, I guess we'll just keep going, and then when you're ready, just jump in whenever you have some.
I guess I'll get my take then, or I guess sort of my thoughts on it as I was driving through. I think that there's an entanglement, or I don't even say it's an entanglement. I just think that we have this consumer-driven economy and this consumer-driven identity that's very hyper-individualistic that doesn't really have any sort of thought around the sort of the communal consequence of certain things. Because there's such hyper-individualism, people will think oh, my desires are consistent with the desires of others. And then consumers, and basically when I say consumers, I'm talking people who make these products, essentially can drive the personal narrative, the individual narrative. So if you have a character that looks a certain way for decades, the Melina example is a good one, because if anybody, which is why I was kind of questioning, I don't know if you could seriously play Mortal Kombat, because she did get a redesign in 11, and that redesign in 11, along with the other characters, received critical backlash because those characters were desexualized in very overt ways. And now,
I did not see the redesign. I did not hear about this, but also
no, you don't play. It's fine. I'm not going to hold you
She
to the
doesn't have a
cross on a game
midriff
you don't play.
anymore, you know, she's not in the bikini.
Yeah,
Now
I'm not
she's
gonna hold people
still
on the cross.
very sexy, you know.
Yeah, my point is, like, I'm not trying to hold people on the cross on a game they don't play, but like it's important to understand, like, yeah, like in certain aspects there's been pushback and challenges with these redesigns. Street Fighter is another one that comes to example, where anytime there's a redesign of Chun-Li, there's just intense backlash within the community. And then my concern about these things is, from an art perspective, it's totally fine and appropriate for characters to have reworks within one iteration to another. Like, those sort of design choices I'm totally fine with. My concern is that when you have a prevailing expression over essentially just sexual parts, like what we consider sexual parts, breasts, ass, waists, and stuff like that, and a character is just sort of pigeonholed to look like that forever, that's not good, since we don't really have the communal networks to like explain why that character is actually fantasy. So people will then go out into the world expecting women to look this particular way, expecting men to act this particular way.
Holy
And that's my
fucking
concern.
based.
I don't think we have the communal wherewithal for men to understand sort of body differences in women as of yet. But that's just one of many things.
Don't accept that in the slightest.
Go ahead, elaborate, please, Jack.
Well, I'll, if that's all right, I'll also make this my closer, because it's past midnight and I've got to get up to work to provide for my wife. Which is a point. Like, can I?
Are you the only married one, by the way? I think. Raise your hand if you're also
I'm married.
Oh,
you're married.
Well, fuck you guys.
And so
Engaged.
Yeah,
Fuck you
so
guys.
look, what I want to say is that a lot of the argument here has sort of hinged on erotica, not pornography, being something that damages a person's sexuality. Now, actual porn, where you have, you know, full frontal vaginal penetration or other such sex acts. Yes.
Wait, hold on. I thought that you couldn't describe it. I thought it was the indescribable, only ever able to be felt, only when Are you watching porn right now?
No, come on, Tuna, come on.
I'm pretty sure I've used sexual acts quite a few times.
The thing is, well, no. Before you said that the only time that you could ever tell whether or not something is porn is when you're watching it, which makes me think you're watching porn right now.
I'm going to keep talking back to you.
Real quick.
You think
Tuna,
everybody's
he does
doing
have
weirdo
to go
shit?
soon, so
Yeah,
we're gonna let him.
Look,
We're gonna let him finish up.
He's got to
his
go
thing.
goon to bed.
Nice. Look, I already satisfied the wife for the evening, so I'm just going to go straight to sleep. Look, I am married to a incredibly beautiful, incredibly lovely lady that I imported all the way from the States. And I love her very much. We've been together since for about 9 years now. We've known each other since we were 12 or 13 through the internet. And
since you were both 12 or 13, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, she's only a year younger than me. Well, 9 months younger than me. And she and I have known each other for a long, long time. And throughout that entire time, she has been reading my writing. And I have written some incredibly dark stuff. I've written some incredibly mythologically heroic stuff. I have written some incredibly intense, and I like to pat myself on the back for this, because I have had some very conventionally attractive ladies pay me money to write them smut. So I am quite proud of my ability to achieve the tantalizing effect that is so abhorrent to the.
Hold on, I don't mean to interrupt, but you've been paid to write women smut.
Yeah, elaborate.
I'm not going to elaborate on YouTube.
That's awful. Where did you have to do this?
Where? Yeah, this is.
No, what I'm saying is, when
content.
when you actually want to create something, when I create a sex scene in the service of a larger story, there is a point to it. Sometimes I just want to make two of my characters kiss or bang, because it's like playing with my action men and my sister's Barbie dolls when I was 6. It's that simple. Sometimes people just do things for the enjoyment of it. I take massive exception to everything under the sun being pornographic, and to be honest, quite a bit of exception to Nova here being called a sex worker for what I would consider quite tasteful work from what she's described. And look, people express sexuality. It is okay for people to express masculine heterosexual sexuality. And I think after 2014, Gamergate 2, and the last sort of decade of desexualization of the industry and the flop after flop after flop that gives us, it is okay for us to finally have a booby game. And that's that. And by the way, I want to stress very quickly, and I mean no disrespect to any of you, I find actual real 3D people quite gross. Apart from the wife, I would never ever find any of you attractive in the slightest. I apologize, ladies.
Oh, you
but
mean you don't want to fuck us all?
You mean like real
Wick,
life?
I can make an
Oh.
exception.
I'm so
Wick,
I'm gonna find my pillow.
if I ever meet Wick, that's an exception. But what I'm trying to explain is there is a stark difference between what can happen in the realm of fiction. Again, I do fantasy. That's what I do. And what happens within the real world. And if what you're consuming is harming you, tuna, soy, don't consume it. If you can't handle it, just don't do it. And I honestly, I mean that. Like in a mental health, men's awareness month, whatever it is now, then do not consume things that you find damaging to you. However, there are those of us that are, enjoy it and still get on with the usual traditional societal life and community and all the other communist buzzwords that I've heard tonight. And with that, I need to go to bed because I've got to go to work tomorrow and
Bye,
function
gang.
in the real world. But it's been lovely.
Good night.
I linked his YouTube in the description. Go check it out.
I'm closing on 1,000.
I gotta point out the fact that he called out the whole idea of Gamergate and look at all these desexualized flops when Baldur's Gate 3, the example that I keep bringing up as something that tastefully inserts sex into their game without it being a distracting mechanic to sell the game specifically, is one of the best-selling games of recent memory and one of the best rated games of recent memory. And it does all of that without saying, hey, look at the boobs right in your face. Isn't this cool? No one's saying that you can't do this. No one's saying you can't enjoy this. What we're saying is this is dumb and embarrassing, and if I get more people to not play these shitty games that sacrifice good story for being Gooner games, then we'll have more better games like Baldur's Gate 3. But
a part that I'm not really buying. Like, I mean, I'll whoever just spoke finish. My bad.
That's me. Hi, I'm the Soy Pill. Nice to meet you, man.
Oh no. Ice Beam was trying.
Oh,
to
to Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead, Joe. I'll go in afterwards.
All right. So first off, I don't know what that Brit owner was having. I had no idea what he was fucking talking about. I ain't trying to hold y'all. I just thought that was some crazy word salad. I don't know why he let it go as long as it did, Wick. So like,
outro, but yeah.
I mean, it's outro, but damn, that's something to say. But again, I missed an hour, so maybe there was something that I missed. I don't really buy too deeply into this idea that there are sort of overt American Gooner games. I guess you'd have to point to something from like American company that's like overtly making a game for gooning.
Who made that rape game? I mean,
That's a real sentence.
Lollipop Chainsaw American? I don't know if that counts.
That's a real sentence.
Unfortunately for you, unfortunately, Tuna, you're gonna have to be a bit more specific than that.
The game that was called The Rape Game.
It's called that?
Wow, they allowed that?
No idea.
Oh, excuse me, no. Lollipop Chainsaw was Japanese. I apologize. You're right. That was not American. It was just had American voice actors in it.
Yeah, because we have examples of games that are even based on sexualized IPs that are just out in the public. A game that comes to mind is Action Timeman, and even then they have to play this fine line between what's acceptable on Steam versus what's acceptable on Play Stores in the United States. And very often they're put in positions where they have to have some level of. And again, this is a Japanese company making a Japanese game. So like that, but when they're interacting with the States, they're going to have to be doing different types of toning down to the best of their ability, which comes to like costume censorship. But I've never seen, at least in recent memory, of an American company having to participate in that level of overt adjustment of the presentation of their female characters, even their male characters.
Maybe
that's why I'm
Overwatch,
asking, like,
right?
where's this the idea of?
Do you remember the Tracer's butt controversy in Overwatch? I remember that. That was semi-recent, maybe 2016.
None of that's in the Bible. You want to explain that to me?
So Tracer had a big protruding bubble butt, and they censored it, and everyone freaked out because her butt was too big, apparently. So they had to. Blizzard did this. I thought that wasn't a big deal. I think that is like not necessarily super Gooner. It was just a normal butt, but enough people complained about the female representation in the game. So that might be a place where like I don't think the line has been crossed, but that's not necessarily a Gooner game specifically, especially with a game that has such a wide variety of body types, and like the girls don't moan sexually when they get hit like in some of the League of Legends original content voice lines. So
real funny you bring up League of Legends. Real quick, so are you saying then that Baldur's Gate isn't a Gooner game?
yeah, I don't think Baldur's Gate is a Gooner game in the same way Stellar Blade is.
Okay.
So they're Gooner games.
But by like Tuna's definition, that would be a Gooner game.
Well, maybe me and Tuna might differ on this, but my point is when the sex is not part of the writing,
you
right? And there's more
Yeah,
like I don't think Stellar Blade has a sex scene in it. Maybe not. I've never played all the way through. Baldur's Gate has
it just has the
naked,
other
full-on
sexual
nudity
elements.
sex scenes, right? But I think those are not Gooner insofar as they are not like the driving force of the game. It's not, hey, the character on screen is always overtly sexual. We've drawn her as this like almost like sex doll character specifically, like they do in Stellar Blade. Which, by the way, it's not like these people don't
But the
exist.
sex is
right?
part of the appeal, though. The sexual
I'm aware
elements
of that.
are part
I'm
of
saying
it.
that is
Well, I think-
worse in the writing.
I think the
like,
difference between games like Baldur's Gate and games like Stellar Blade. Baldur's Gate, you don't have to have sex with anyone. You can the sexuality in it, you can almost entirely opt
Sure, you
out
can
of.
turn it off. Yeah,
The
effectively turn it
Stellar,
off.
yeah.
Stellar
you
Blade.
can turn
It's a
everyone
real
down.
sentence.
Stellar
Jesus
Blade?
Turn them
Christ.
down easy.
That's it.
Well, no,
Stellar
turn it
Blade
off
is-
as in like.
Nah,
yeah,
I seen
you know
I
what
have no idea. I have no idea what that means. I don't want to
We're not
interrogate
gonna
what
go
that
in-
means.
We're not
practically,
gonna go
right?
into it. We're not gonna go into it. No, we're gonna pretend it wasn't said. Okay, but the point is,
Jesus.
Stellar Blade and games like that,
Hmm.
you can't. There's no choice.
Yeah, but-
it's
But
just
okay, hold on.
movies.
But
You
hold on a
can't
second.
turn-
I think what I'm fundamentally not understanding is that to me when you are playing Stellar Blade, there's no wishy-washiness about it. You are playing a booby game, more booby game than normal.
Yes.
I-
The
Yeah.
booby character is
Fans-
framed in
You've
center
signed
screen.
up for this.
She's
You've signed up
moves
for
in
this.
certain ways to
This isn't-
express
this
her
isn't-
boobiness,
wait,
right?
This
Like,
is an empty. This is. You are going to struggle with this, I think, because Stellar Blade, we can agree that the marketing and the discourse around it sexualized it, but the only thing sexual about Stellar Blade is that the character is dressed scantily clad. People, I want to play Stellar Blade, but I'm not going to because there's no way for me to play it in a way that doesn't make me feel like I am having sex rammed down my throat. Right?
Okay, then that's fine. I think that like I'm not saying you're not valid for feeling upset at that, right? Like
Breasted
every
boobies.
single
It's not
time
just about upsetness. It's not just about
hold
upsetness.
on, wait, no,
This is
I'm not. I don't
this
mean to
is
minimize that. I don't mean to minimize that
No.
because I do think.
I don't.
Yeah.
This is not about scale. This is not about scale. I'm saying that you are missing the core, actual issue to me because I have no problem
I
with
don't know if
pornography
you're in my
existing
chat
at
right
all.
now,
It is
but,
about the slow
your
creep of
perky
it
tits
into
comment was censored.
mainstream media, such that you cannot engage inside of the media landscape without having to ignore not just normal, but specifically private pornographic depictions of of sexuality. If
Wait,
every
so then
time
we-
that you watch a TV show, somebody that looks like Joe Louis, but instead he's got gold chains and he's doing some fucked up accent, you wouldn't just say, "Oh, well, if you don't want stereotypical renditions of black people, don't watch that show." You would say, "Wait, why is CBS airing this? Like, what's going on?"
I would watch another show that doesn't do the stereotypical. If that's what I want, that's what you're saying. Like that's
So
my
wait,
point.
The
Is that
main
if you don't,
character,
you
the
don't
main
like Stellar
character's
Blade,
name.
you don't like
imagine
sex being rammed down your throat. Don't play Stellar Blade.
You're watching a TV show where the main character's name is N-word Scissorhands. The dude has Jar Jar Binks' voice. We're talking about things that you can't honestly believe that people should not be thinking, wait a second, why is this happening in a mainstream game and not just some shitter game that's on Steam?
Yeah, the
This is a
point,
mainstream
point
game we're
Tuna's
talking about?
making is that it's like
Don't
what
play it.
critiquing media, especially
Oh.
very
No, he's
popular
asking about the
media.
theoretical.
It's
Yeah.
not just about if you don't like it, don't play it. This is a very important part of critiquing media that is very popular and saying, hey, this is a counter narrative to the idea that this either should be normalized, we should make more games like this, or that it's okay in the sense of like this is like good. Like it's not good in our opinion. That's the whole
No,
point.
okay. And I take no, see, so Phil, I think don't get me wrong. It's not that I have an issue with the critique. I don't have an issue with the critique, okay? If especially if you have a game that does most of these things and then just goes in with the excessive sexuality, that's fine, right? Because what you're effectively saying is, well, I would play this game, it checks off all these boxes for me, but it has this excessive sexuality that I can't get over. And so, like, I'd like a game like that, please. Can somebody make that? Or can you consider adding it or whatever? That's fine. I don't have an issue with that specifically. My approach is just more of a let the content be made, and eventually the games that do check off that box and also have the amount of sexuality that you're fine with or that is tied in well, those are the games that are going to rise to the top,
Well,
or that you
is
have
the
to
case, though.
make sure.
You're kind of
you
making
have
just like
to
a
make that
tautological
happen.
argument. Like this over sexualization in games has been on the decline since I don't know if you were like a gamer back in like 2007, 2008, but it was a lot more like overt with especially when games were not really marketed to women at all. Now it's much more of a co-ed space. Before it was simply just like, hey, here's the reward for beating this level. Hey, like go into the GTA strip club and goon a little bit to these strippers. It had nothing really to do with the game. It was meant to market to the target audience. It's on the way out. I do agree that yeah, I'm not going to buy it, but also speaking out against it is important because I want fewer games like this to be made, and eventually like it'll just kind of be on the marginalized like areas. But what's your point? I mean, yeah, that's how all media
But
works.
my problem is that like, okay, so the again, like games like Stellar Blade or games that are basically like porn games, but with a very basic mechanics and everything else slapped on to whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, I guess those like don't get me wrong, I would have a distaste for those games as well, but them existing, there's a market demand for that, and so that demand is being met.
Okay.
So I guess like for me it's like for example, I stopped playing games for a reason, and I never ever play games for certain reasons, and I guess I don't understand why this isn't considered in the same vein.
So again, this goes like I criticize bad movies because I'm like, this is slop. When these make a lot of money, more of them will be made, and they'll
please. Please, I'll let you finish. But after you finish, I have maybe a direction to take us.
Sure. I'm just saying that having a vocal movement of critique of things that you consider bad is an important part of making those things happen less. Because if you seed the ground of just, if you don't like it, don't play it. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Yeah, sure. But I think there should be like very strong pushes against things that I disagree with, because otherwise those things become more mainstream. That's how you get these slopification Disney movies that are coming out now, because not enough people are calling out just how fucking terrible some of these remakes are. And they make $400, $500, $3 jillion. Whereas when something really good and original, some IPO that like some person put their heart and creativity comes out, if we don't get enough people to support that thing, that's going to happen less. And I want more good things to be made, because unfortunately, although everything is, the free market, sometimes it is a zero-sum game with these studios and where they give money. And I want that to be going to good things.
Okay, gang. I do want to, I think maybe to help the conversation progress a little forward, I want to introduce kind of the Gooners themselves. So not just the games, but the culture around it. Over and over and over again, when media comes out, so not just games, we're talking any kind of media comes out, a movie or a show. Well, let's look at the HBO Last of Us 2, right? People complain that the main character, the girl in that game, or that show, I should say, which is based on a game, isn't hot, that she's ugly. And you constantly see that whenever a game comes out and the main character, who is female, or one of the main female characters, isn't hot enough or sexy enough or what have you, they get attacked. They get attacked by a swarm of greasy gamey gooners. Is all I can tell them. Like,
Greasy
Tuna has
gaming
poisoned.
gooners.
Tuna has poisoned you with this grease analogy.
You
I-
said the
I
word
just-
grease more than tuna, I
but-
think, actually.
Hold on, you
People who
recognize
look
that
like
that's
Wick.
happening. I want to ask Star, maybe get her in a little bit on this, right?
Yeah.
At what point would you? Let me ask you this:
Make the leads hot again? Is
How
that the question, Wick?
How important?
How important are hot leads?
Yes. How
I mean, that's why I
important are
watch Jack Reacher, so I'm just
Yeah.
trying to make sure we're on the same page here.
It's important. It's no different than casting for a movie. You'll notice the less attractive the main stars are, the less pull the overall project is going to have. Same thing with the front man from a band.
Or bad? Is that good for our culture or bad?
Or
neutral?
Having somebody attractive as a front man for whatever industry it is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because more attractive people in general make more sales. Period. And it's about the money, right? It's about the money first.
Can I give a counterexample to this where I
Sales?
completely agree with Nova?
Make more sales, yeah.
But take a look at, for example, they're casting for that movie that's a documentary on Sam Bankman-Fried, who is a not good-looking man, and his wife looks like a weird bug, right? And I think they're sacrificing artistic integrity of retelling that story because they cast two very attractive people as these not very attractive characters, and they don't look the part. And maybe they're going to do some makeup to make it fit, but what the problem is when you use sex to sell, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, sex is great. It's a part of sexuality. It's using sex to sell in a way that is sacrificing what otherwise would have been a more coherent story, where it's like, wait, does it make sense that the character just got naked for no reason on level 3? Oh no, they just do that every once in a while to make you play the game more. That's when I think it's bad, because it's like, well, this isn't really like part of the story in a way that makes sense. This is just you trying to make people play the game more, in the same way the gambling aspect doesn't fit into the world. That's my problem. The problem is not hot characters. The problem is not being attractive. The problem is when it's not fitting in what would otherwise be a more coherent and better written game.
Star, I kind of want to pick that because I think you have the better take here. So not in the better, I just think there's a little bit more to delve into that. So do you think that like cultural significance and historical significance be damned in media? If they're attractive, that's what's gonna have to drive the culture forward or the community forward?
Okay, so I have a history in the entertainment industry. Okay,
I don't care, but yeah.
I look at it from the standpoint of how a story is written, and then casting comes into play. I don't really look at it from that standpoint because they're going to choose that based off of the product. Would I necessarily agree on moving so far away from a character that they don't represent the character anymore? No, as a writer, I would not. But as a production company, well, they're going to want to rake in the money, right? And it's going to sell further into other foreign markets, the most attractive and most presentable that you bring it. Do I necessarily agree, though, all the time? No, because it does sacrifice art.
Well, I don't believe you.
But the bean counters are in control of everything.
You're dancing around it, though. You're dancing around it where you're like, it's a great thing to do if you're an evil, money-obsessed goblin. Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I kind of want to parse that out, Superno. Do you think that the media landscape is? I'm not going to use those filler words that he made, but like, do you think that they are strictly profit driven?
Oh, fuck yeah, they are. Absolutely.
Do you think it's ever redeemable away from like? Do you think there's going to be a revolution in media that's going to be against profit motive?
No, because
or do you think it's possible?
No, it's possible, but it'd be up to the consumer. If once the consumer goes in a different direction, boycotts and moves strongly away, and the profits decline, that's when you're making the statements to all these conglomerates, because they're all conglomerates now. They're not even independent anymore.
Okay, what do you think?
Documentaries are getting bigger than ever. YouTube is crushing television and cinema. Cinema, by the way, is slop for pigs.
It is. I agree with that.
We already have a movement going away from this bottom of the barrel slop for hogs. Hogs who, oh, well, it's the profit motive. I'm just going to go with it. Obviously, I have to have the director's financial stability in mind. Let them die. Let
Ooh, I
him
don't know.
die
I'm just
for.
imagining the other cars looking into your car, and like you're in having like a
Just
schizo
screaming.
rant at your phone right now.
Yeah, I guess it's like
Oh,
I guess it's kind
fucking
of like a
slob!
pretty. I think it's pretty like gloom, kind of like a pretty gloom way of like thinking about it, right? Where if the conditions are on the consumer, that would suggest that you're going like before we can even reach this, it's going to require some type of like not only cultural but social and economic and political revolution. Do you think that's probably what needs to be done, Star?
Sorry, Joe.
Probably, yeah. I mean, Tuna called me a sex worker because I said I had posed for a calendar shoot one time, and I was
think he was
fully
being
clothed
facetious.
in a bikini, but yet he confused
That's sex work.
sexy
That's
or
sex
no,
work.
it's not. No, it's not.
That's
No,
sex
it's
work.
not. No, it's not.
That's
No,
sex
never
work.
mind. He
No,
wasn't.
it's okay.
Okay,
So
wait.
all
Can
the
I
old
can I answer?
Wait, hold on,
Can I
hold on,
answer
hold
the
on.
so
question?
all
Let
the
me
old
answer the question.
Budweiser
Yeah.
commercials is
All of
sex
you,
work.
hold on, all of you stop. Because you screaming it's sex work and you screaming no, it's not. Let's get some actual dialogue here. Why is it sex work, Tuna? And then you can tell us
No.
why it's not.
No,
And
you
also,
know
what's
why
wrong
it's
with
sex
sex
work?
work?
It's not a catalog where we're selling the fucking bathing suit. Even that half the time is fucking sex work. It's specifically, do you want to see a woman in a bathing suit? Buy our calendar.
Yeah, it's literally the epitome of sex sells, and then you say it's not sex work. I kind of agree. It's on the spectrum of it. It's nowhere close to having sex for money, but I mean,
It's
The reason
marketing.
people would call it not
It's
sex work
marketing.
is because they think sex work is dirty.
yeah,
I'm
kind of.
pro whore.
No. I mean,
Oh my goodness! All right.
I'd like to. I'm just.
Hold
gonna
on,
say
no,
this, and then
Tuna.
I'd
When
like to
I think,
answer your
hold on,
question.
no, stop,
though.
please. Tuna, everyone knows I have a running gag, if you will, on my stream that if you give me $50, I'll take off my shirt. Is that sex
That's
work?
literally sex work.
It is sex. Well, it's a mix of two
Am I a
things.
sex
One, it's
worker?
sex work, and it's also tricks for treats. It's a humiliation gag.
Oh, you probably think the boogeyman is behind every shadow too.
No,
Wait,
I'm not
he's
a
never
paranoid
said this is a bad
schizophrenic. I'm
thing.
just a person that knows when a
No,
woman
okay.
being stripped is for sex appeal.
Wick, I think it's reasonable to say that you saying that if I get some type of monetary compensation, I will do this to my body is kind of dicey.
Yeah, the only
And I think in the
difference, Wick,
same
is that you're not a hot girl.
vein to Starnova, maybe a softer way of looking at this is, would you have done that if the monetary compensation was at or greater than what you received?
It's called modeling. I that has nothing to do with it. It's called modeling.
I'm
I was trying
asking
to
you a
go
question.
somewhere.
Right. I'm asking you a question. Like, if you had substance in your life where you didn't have to worry about money, you didn't have to worry about your health, you didn't have to worry about your material needs, would you still model?
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, absolutely.
Even if there's zero profit margin. So I'm saying that we completely detach from a society where monetary value is attached to these things. You would still model?
What's the motive?
because I
What's
was
the
a front
alternative
man.
motive?
I'm a front
What's
man.
the motive?
To like feel validated and like think your people.
Is it
think
for
you're hot,
attention?
right?
Are you?
I'm not.
Are
Listen,
you,
I'm not trying to like Starno. I want to make something so clear. I am not trying. Listen, I understand.
Oh no, I don't think you're doing that. I think
I'm
the
not trying to
so-called
go full
virtue
insult.
signaling Puritan down there is, which you're gonna try and tell me
Wait, he's
me
saying there's
doing
nothing
some
wrong with
modeling
it.
and
It's not
acting and being a
Puritan.
professional
You're a
dancer
dog.
and musician
You're a
makes
dog of a
me
woman.
whore.
No, okay, wait, no. It just sounded like you're putting a negative spin on it, Tuna, initially. But I know you're not. But not everyone gets that. Oh, but
Yeah, I guess like
Can I go back and answer? Can I go back and answer Joe's
ahead,
question, if you
Please.
don't
I don't
mind?
even know what I asked. What was it?
I mean, you were basically saying like, would we need some kind of revolution to essentially like change how it is? Okay.
Yeah.
So basically,
Is that Lord James?
my
Thanks for
thing
coming
is
on, buddy.
yes, I think so. But here's the because just as an example, and to bring back Soy Pill's argument from earlier, right? The slop that Disney puts out, all the fucking live action films, you actually can't say that nobody's pushing back on it. As soon as a new movie is released, the next day, I didn't even know that Lilo and Stitch had been re-released. I just saw my entire YouTube page filled up with Lilo and Stitch is bad.
Yeah.
The remake was dog shit. Blah 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 blah.
Right. I
And
didn't say
people
no
who
one's
are-
pushing back. I'm saying more
No,
people
hold
should
on.
push
Yeah,
back.
No, I understand. Like, I guess my point is that these people are making, and these are some of these channels that are pretty big, and I've watched them for years, so on and so forth. I'm sure Big Joel will put out a video, Shafrila's Productions, all that shit. Yeah, that's great, and that's fine. But all of those views and even those channels are completely dwarfed by all of the people who go and watch it regardless. Because of nostalgia, because they're caught up, like they're Disney adults or they're caught up by Disney, whatever, right? So, like, there's nothing. I don't see anything really that can change that specific part of it, right? Like consumers.
I don't understand.
Consumers
like,
are just
you
going
saying
to
there's no way to shift market demand for things by having
No,
enough
I
people
think
react
there is.
negatively to it? Like there
No,
is
no,
a
no,
huge
I think-
Disney
Negative
monster.
reaction is just like
No.
okay. So
I do need to read a couple more super chats. Thank you for the super chats. We got one from TL1524 for $5 to say, funny to watch a party of sex work is real work complain about a game character who dresses too sexy. Soy's just mad that he just sucks at Soul Games. Thank you.
I'm not
for the
mad. I
$5.
actually do suck at Soul Games though, so he's not wrong.
And then $5 more.
So do I.
From Xerxes, from Bass FC. And
Hey.
Xerxes, you know what? Fuck it. If you want
Oh
on,
no!
come
Oh
on in.
no!
Xerxes, we love you, Xerxes.
I just got remonetized.
Let's be real. It's kind of goofy to say bikini modeling is sex work. That's really stretching the definition. Are yoga pants sex coded now too?
I mean, they are.
They are. Yeah.
Not intentionally, but
Just to
Okay,
answer that.
sure.
I mean,
I
I
mean,
don't know.
like, hold on, like, can we
do you disagree with that though? Do you
no, like let's
disagree
just
that yoga
engage
pants
with
are
that
sex-coded?
practically, right? Like yoga pants are essentially a tool to make a particular task easier for the participants. That's what it is at its core. When it gets to the
Camel toe.
public of that, because when it engages with things like
Moose knuckle.
patriarchy,
Can I
misogyny,
say-
etc., then you run into that problem where it's like, yeah, go for it. Start, what's up?
Yoga pants actually came from dance wear for dancers, Broadway. I did that stuff.
Yeah.
So before
yeah.
yoga pants was like a huge thing and you see everybody and their twin brother wearing them, that's where it started from. It wasn't like meant to be like some major, a culture changing thing,
I thought I didn't have
Sure.
No,
I
but
mean,
I
that's
think-
why
I
that's why I
think-
said it was a tool for
it
it was a tool to make a specific activity easier. That
So
specific
annoying.
activity, I guess you're trying to, I don't know
Movement.
what it's engaging with,
Yeah.
but like I don't know what you said is how it's engaging with what I said, but I think maybe you're speaking more broadly.
I'm speaking
But
about
I think, no, but I think the issue is that you can. I wouldn't. So, for example, I wouldn't go so far as to say that what you're doing specifically is like sex work in the same way that other sex work is, but it is using sexual elements to sell the calendar, right? Like it's not like you're.
well, you guys are
hiding.
going through the culture now, which is like this Puritan virtue signaling, very feminist driven kind of narrative. I'm not a feminist.
How old are you?
Whoa, hold on.
Like
no one's saying it's
I'm in
bad.
my 30s.
Nova.
What business is
No
it?
one's saying
I'm
it's
not saying it's bad either.
No, not you.
it's
This
not-
guy asked me how old I was.
No, most of us are in our 30s. What do you mean
Uh-huh.
you're going
Yeah,
through this
Wick has
culture
grown
right
as
now,
adults
guys?
going on these things. I don't know.
I'm
I guess like
42.
start.
Well, I meant
maybe
her because she seems like she's like 25. I don't mean anything bad. I'm just being
Damn, good for
pejorative
you.
with
Good
it.
for
How
you.
old are
Good for
you?
you,
I
Ice
mean,
Beans. Take the flowers.
I'm 34.
Take the
Oh,
flowers.
when
Take the
I-
flowers and run.
You look good.
when I was growing up, there was a period of time where, for example, my mom wouldn't let me wear yoga pants unless I was wearing a shirt that went past my butt, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
That had more to do with being a teenager stuff or whatever. But going off of that though, I can see that like there is something there to like your butt being outlined and stuff like that, and so that does. It's just that now in this current day and age, yoga pants are now considered pants in the sense that I could go and not get like gawked at necessarily. Now,
No,
if
you
I were
will
to
get
go back
gawked
to
at.
my
Let's not kid ourselves. You will.
Well, I'll be
Sorry.
gawked at, but not in the same way, right?
Specifically
Not in the
you.
same way.
Yeah.
Okay, look, if I went back to my native country dress, like the way I'm dressed right now,
Yeah,
I've
you
literally
wouldn't be.
gotten No, I've literally gotten the grandmas moving their daughter away from me in the grocery store so that they don't see me, right? And
Well,
I guess that's what I mean is that like
there's
these
yeah,
it
because
there's
hints
two
to
things
that.
happening at the same time, and before I guess this panel's about to go really sideways. I can already tell by the avatars, so I want to get this out of the way. I want to ask this question for Star. That way we can get this out of the way. So Star, right?
Yes,
If this entire group of people's material conditions are met, we're going to say financially, socially, politically, economically, all of these things, would they still do that activity? I'm just going to run through some professions. You ready?
Okay.
No.
Let me ask you one question though. How can I speak for other people?
I'm just saying, like, I'm saying, based on the profession, would you reasonably assume that they would stop? Generally speaking, that's all.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, sure. It depends,
All right.
though.
Sure, landscapers.
Stop.
I mean, that's a lot of hard work. I mean, if you got the money, you don't have to do it anymore, obviously. But it's a good profession.
Okay, plumbers.
Quit.
Necessary.
Wait,
But I guess they would quit. I don't know. You want me to answer stuff for other people?
Right. So I'm just going through different professions, and I'll say like the one I said before, there because of internet and stuff. I said strippers.
Oh,
quit.
I would hope they would quit, but
why?
Because I've known strippers. They start off normal. They start off not addicted to drugs and doing things that they would regret, and then once they get into it, that's the road they head down usually.
So they would stop because they're heading down to drugs and substance abuse.
Well, also prostitution. Most strippers are
Why
also
are they
prostitutes.
taking the drugs? Why are they taking the drugs?
Because it's like being a rock star, man. Like drugs.
Well, that's why I presupposed
it's accessible, huh?
Well, that's why I presuppose that all of their material conditions could be met. So, like, let's say they do want some type of controlled substance, they have access to that. They have access to food, shelter, all these things.
Joe, you're missing the fact
I would hope
that
so, but hey,
very commonly, the reason that these hookers, prostitutes, strippers, like the common factor of on the street sex workers, which by the way is not the only, which is why she's going to try and weasel out of this. The reason they're taking drugs is because they're getting raped, they're getting groped, they're getting battered, they're getting chased, they're not getting paid enough, their life sucks, they hate themselves, nobody loves them. Like there is a slow decline into absolute individualism, right? And the way that they numb it out is drugs.
So the angle that I was trying to go to was not that. I guess I believe that there are people who do certain aspects of labor and do it by virtue of the labor itself. I think I can point to teachers, certain aspects of landscapers, in particular carpenters, farmers. I think some professions do this because they understand that these things have a greater good for society. And I'm not quite convinced that if the material conditions were met for all people, you would have things like sex work and strippers. I'm not quite convinced that profession would still exist in the landscape I'm describing.
I can just grant you that a lot of strippers would no longer be strippers. That's fair, right? But there are some who absolutely would. They'd be like, yeah, just like
I was going to say that.
I like the attention.
Yeah.
How do you tell the difference between a stripper that does it because they like stripping and a stripper that does it because they like the money? What's that difference?
I mean, you asked the same question you asked Nova already, which was if you were a millionaire and you didn't need money, would you still do your calendar thing? And she said, yeah, because she liked the gratification from it. It's not about, oh, I'm providing a service necessarily. It's just, I like this. And so clearly some people might do the same thing, right?
I would need to perform
I didn't mean to put that word in your mouth.
Examination on the subject in order to find out whether they like it or not.
What would that examination look like?
Send it over to our trippy over here.
Listen.
Playing around.
I
send him the calendar. If it's not sex work, if it's not sexually explicit, if it's not something that inside of the thing that you did, you recognize that it is for the sexual elation of another, send it to Trippy.
I mean, it's a case by
Have you ever watched John LaJoy, Tuna? Do you know who that is?
What?
John LaJoy.
John LaJoy.
John LaJoy. Have you ever seen?
I just heard a disembodied voice. I have no idea where that came from.
It's
The
just it's
clown guy.
this clown. No offense to you,
my
Trip.
mouth
No, I
moves
don't
when
know
I
what it
speak.
is.
Oh,
Don't know what
okay.
it is.
No, it's like
That's
super
fine, I was
soft. I
wondering.
don't know. Whoever spoke, their mic
yeah,
is mad
I
soft.
understand.
But
turn yourself
I
up
do want to
just a little
ask.
bit.
So I'm kind of curious to ask like Tuna
Do you have
Chip
a
a couple
camera?
questions.
Cass? Also, if
Me,
you don't
of
have
course
a
I have
camera
a
on, please
camera,
turn your
but I'm
camera
not.
on. Yeah.
Fine.
Oh,
then.
I know this
I'm
black
not-
guy.
I'm
Yeah,
not
turn the camera on,
decent.
man.
Oh, he lights up when he
I know
talks.
his
I'm not,
voice.
I'm not decent. I'm not. The lighting is terrible.
Who
Oh, give me a
cares?
second.
He's only
Look at
dressed from the
Tuna.
waist
Who
up.
cares?
Yeah,
look
Tuna's
like
been
a
really
man.
quiet.
Like,
The thing
Nice
is, that's
conversation
true. He is
base.
But listen, the thing that is kind of peculiar to me is how far this goes when we look at things that are sexualized, right? Because the reason why I asked about yoga pants is because if a lady were to put on yoga pants, that's more or less the silhouette of her naked body, right? If that be the case, then it's like, well, like, is she acting sexually because she's wearing yoga pants?
Where do you think this idea that she's acting sexually or even presents himself sexually comes from? You think?
I want to answer the question,
a good
Joe, and then we
question.
can go down that line.
That's a real question. I'm asking genuinely. Like, where do you think this idea?
I want to answer his question. We're gonna do first in, first out. You cool with that?
I have no idea what that means. That sounds like a sex act.
Well, he means he wants to speak first, and then you can say something.
Gotcha. Oh, I see.
Well, so we don't-
Cook your whole dish. I'll
the
chill.
scope.
Yeah, cook your whole
Expand the
dish. I'll
scope.
chill.
Okay. It is obviously context born. If a person is in the gym, it is very likely that they are wearing it because we know the amount of sweating. You need something elastic. You want something that doesn't build up the water such that it takes on weight. That's the
But if they
context
came
of-
on stream with yoga pants,
But we know right
Maybe.
now that if you go to Pornhub.com and you type yoga pants into the search bar, you will find people that have explicitly put on yoga pants for sexual elation. And we know that the reason they have, not only because they've tagged it, but because everything that they are cultivating in that video is
But
for
what if the
sexual
lady
elation.
went to the grocery store? Could we say she's displaying herself sexually there?
Just
Different
wearing
context. She's
pants.
on the gym
Right.
now.
She's
So
just
now
wearing
it's just
pants.
wearing.
Don't be
So,
a
but that's what I'm
fucking
saying, right?
pervert.
So
gonna
when
have
you
to-
say that
let's-
that's
How about
being
that shit?
perverted, but if she
could
models
look
for a
up-
calendar, you easily say that that's sex work. But then, like,
Yes,
why would
exactly.
you then be
Because-
just like, well, it's just pants here, but
Tuna,
here
you can-
modeling is sex work? I
You
don't
can go on the
understand
same
But why
website
how
is
we
the
and
woman
jump
look up
wearing
there.
woman
Why is
dressed
the
like
woman in a-
grandmother.
Why is the woman in a
you'll
bathing
get
suit
videos.
instead of a
Hey,
wheelchair?
thank you, downtown.
And I
Guys,
know
go
you
If we're
know.
just trying
You
to
can be
like,
in a bathing suit
give
in the
people to
wheelchair.
fund
though.
money.
A question.
go ahead.
Are you like offended by everything on a woman? Like, what's the problem here?
Tuna
I
has
have
never
no
I think he
offense.
is.
claimed
I
to
Tuna
be
just
Chip's
offended.
recognize
he's not
what
that
is.
type of guy.
I mean,
Kinda
I
sounds like he
recognize
might be
what
a
is
Muslim.
and is not porn. Star,
he's
and I'm
doing the
pro
fact-
Oh
porn,
no.
and I'm pro whore.
No,
you
this
okay
is
with
not a
women
winning
showing their
point,
ankle?
Tuna.
no,
Like, but you're starting to remind, like, I'm a preacher's daughter, dude. You're starting to remind me some of those got to have your hair up in a wob naughty and all the way down to here, and you're screwing all the way
Ironically,
down to
I'm
like, what do you
What's
closer
want?
to
father
that
feel
than
about the
Everybody
Tuna
get
is.
calendar?
or something?
Here's the irony. The irony, Stars, I'm closer to that than Tuna is, right? I've actually, conversated and debated with him. But the
Yeah.
thing that's just interesting to me is why we don't just go the full extra mile then, right? Like if we understand that a woman is
Sharia.
displaying herself sexually
Sharia law.
when she's wearing short gym shorts or when she's wearing yoga pants, why don't we say that she's displaying herself sexually? But we then understand for this magazine that isn't sexual, actually, isn't her in a bikini. Then we say that that's sex work. Like,
Hold
how do
on.
we go?
Well,
How do
it
we
was a
deduce
magazine.
that?
Hey, Star,
It
Star,
was a
real quick
magazine.
before
It was a
Yes.
Star,
calendar.
before you're
Please,
misrepresented.
Yes.
Please, Xerxes, you understand that the bikini model calendar is meant to be sexy.
Sure, but how does that sex work?
Because it is a
I
person
don't agree it's
doing
sex work,
work.
but it
Yeah,
is
exactly what I'm
sexy.
saying. I don't
It's
agree
meant
it's
to be
sex work
sexy.
either. Here's the thing:
You don't
yoga
make
pants
a
are
non-sexual
sexy.
non-sexual
This
bikini
is
But are
calendar.
they?
Quick,
Is
this
but
is
is
total
that sex
semantics,
work? You
and
see
I'd
what I'm
like to
saying?
get back to video games if we can,
what's
because
the
that was
first-
a
Yeah,
fun
Star,
debate.
Star,
wanna-
Star.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of people
Star,
wanting
real
it.
quick,
There's a lot of
so
people wanting it.
fast.
There's a lot of people wanting it.
Promise this is
I
fast.
want to give. Hold on. I want to give the mic to CPCA. They've been wanting to get in
Who?
for a little bit.
What?
If you have a camera, please turn it on. But otherwise,
Strange
go ahead.
abbreviation.
CPCA.
The
Sorry.
CP
There's
certification
there's been
agency.
another person in this call this entire time.
Yes.
There have been
What the
several.
fuck?
And his
Oh,
camera,
okay.
then he turned
He's
it off.
spoken a few times.
Oh man, I'm so panel dry now. You guys are making. Oh, I
Okay,
miss
then
Wick Chat
have a
already.
simple
I mean, I could have
question.
replied with "I
What
can
would
make
be
you
the
wet," but
difference
don't know if this
between-
is the place.
Oh.
Hold on.
shot. That's not your real voice, dog.
Hold
There
on,
ain't
everyone
no
let
shot at your real
CPCA.
voice.
No one can hear say CPCA.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe you
just
shouldn't
gonna
have
call you
invited
emergency.
8 people on your
I'm gonna call you
4-person panel,
emergency.
wit.
Emergency.
That's his real voice. There's no way that's your
Hold on,
real
no,
voice.
let him talk.
Shut
Let
up.
her talk. I'm not sure actually. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, basically, what the difference would be between like someone who's doing a thirst trap, and one who would be doing like a bikini calendar, and I wanted to see where the line would split essentially.
Hold on, just real quick. CPCA, how old are you?
I'm 19.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure you were over 18.
Yeah, the adult.
I thought his voice was like
47.
10 octaves deeper, but I confused him with another user.
I'm sorry,
I don't
my
see a
microphone
difference.
sounds
I
like
don't think you can parse out the difference in everyday life. I think that's the problem but there's like something else in there that I kind of want to parse out a little bit. Star, you
Yes?
come off as a secular individual. Is that a correct read?
I'm not a secular individual, actually.
Okay. So when I say secular, what does that mean to you?
Like a very amoral, non-Christian. I'm good with anything goes. I'm not.
Oh no, I'm just wondering.
None of
So
those
are you
things.
somebody who follows a faith?
I am, yes. Hmm.
So
Guys.
your moral and ethics are built.
I'm going to mute this. All right, guys, look, if you are looking for more substance, it might be the case that I will go on Tim Pool on Friday. I'm texting about it right now. I'd like to go back to video games, though.
Of Islam, you are fine. Well,
Hey.
you're fine in that regard.
Nice
Well,
way to
because
put
like
that.
someone mentioned Sharia, and I don't know, we were trying to be yikes, but in America, it's really interesting how I'm speaking specifically in terms of Americans, and maybe like Canadians probably have this problem too, where they're kind of like deeply indoctrinated in like Christian theology and Christian morals and ethics. And then when it finally makes it into public, they don't really kind of understand like why they feel these certain ways. For instance, right? Like who is determining what is too sexual? Who is determining what is too revealing, right? And a lot of times what I've noticed is that there's like this unreflective theological indoctrination that's going on. So what that can look like in practice is like somebody just like saying like, oh, like you ought to like not show X, Y, or Z thing about your body. And then you go, well, why? And it's like, well, just because you shouldn't do that. And it's like, well, hang on,
Yeah,
like,
well, hold on,
where
Joe,
did
to
you
recenter this about video games, the idea is not we
So-
can't do this or we shouldn't do this. The idea is certain ways of sexualization are sacrificing good writing. They're sacrificing good games. Whereas you can put sex in a game. You can put full-on frontal, total nudity sex in a game, and it can still be very good, like in Baldur's Gate, versus, hey, I'm going to center the main character's ass. It's going to take up a third of the screen just to appeal to Gooners. The problem we have with that is not the fact that it's sexy. We're not saying, oh, cover her up, put a burqa on her. It's specifically about the idea that this is so dumb and clearly like only there to be Gooner bait, and is not about like anything in the game that makes sense. It is just poorly
Hold
written.
on, can I ask you a question?
What was
Is
the
it possible
question,
for?
sir?
Well, he made a point, but I'm kind of curious now. Like, is it possible for a sexy lady to be a complex, interesting character?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not against
who's
sex.
determining?
And what's wrong with the sexiness? Then?
It's not just.
Let's
No,
say it
it's
is
right
Gooner
here.
bait, but she's a great character.
Because
What's wrong with
the
that?
Gooner bait is cringe. It makes it more pornographic rather
Well,
than
that's
just
just-
It
I'm
might be
attracted to this
cringe, Soy,
character.
but you have to understand that video games are
Speaking-
escapism. They're for
speaking of
doing things and
cringe,
seeing things
Dude,
that
turn
you
on your
wouldn't
camera.
normally
Your
in real
VTuber
life.
Joker
But-
thing
but
is some of the most
my
If you
embarrassing
want to
problem
play
thing I've
those
seen.
games, you should just let them. Like, what the fuck
Well,
is
it's not
the
even.
problem?
It's
Why
not
would
even
you have
just
to
to just
explain
let
about
them.
it?
Because
Trippy,
I don't think to
I'm
just let
just
them is a
gonna-
good argument. But I think that what's
Trippy, you
interesting.
don't do that with crack cocaine. You don't do that with meth.
And he's right. Yeah, he's
I
right.
say if they
Like,
want
No,
to do
but
crack cocaine, let them.
well,
I don't
maybe
really
he
care.
does
Tuna,
then.
you're now you're
but
now
I don't
you're
agree with that
equating-
argument.
You're equating now you're equating porn to crack cocaine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's
Yes.
just
So what?
silly.
So
Well,
wait,
that's a comparison. Yes, that's
it's a
That is a
comparison,
silly
but just
comparison.
comparing the two just by comparing pornography to cocaine doesn't mean anything unless you substantiate what good and what bad is. So
His
what
point
is
is that
I've
you would
already-
not accept
Joe?
someone to just do a thing, right? You would challenge them if you think it's bad. That's his point.
what?
Joe,
Oh my
I
God, I'm
know-
about to get mad, but maybe Tuna can
Joe,
help.
Okay. It's
I'm ready.
very you didn't get the part earlier, so I think that you might be missing the most explicit version
Sure.
of the take that I'm on, which is that
Sure.
I think the reason that these very specific depictions of sexuality in games are a problem is not because they are sex, but because they are specifically not sex. They are the de-sexing of sexual stimulus. They are all about masturbating. They are all about the individual experience. They are all about creating a personal sexuality which is not conforming to the outside world, which is bad.
Chat, help me out. I'm just curious. If I go on Tim Pool and I get to choose the topic, what would you want to see me talk about? Just throw some suggestions in there.
And those games are very much more popular.
Can I posit an idea about safety
Joe,
then?
Please, Joe. Please, Joe. Please. I know there's a lot of people here, and we're getting lost in the sauce here. And I know that Soy Pill asked a question to, I believe, Nova. Could you ask that again? Or could you make your point again? Nova was trying to
I got lost as to what Joe was asking me, and then
sorry, Joe.
Soy answered. So, like, what
Yeah.
are you asking me, honey? Are you asking me like who's in control of all the marketing? Obviously, it's up to the media and how far that they can push the limits, because there's nudity clauses and stuff that they can't do in American television. Same thing, not the same thing as that's in the EU. How far that they can take things. So what were you asking me specifically?
Oh no, the affirmative claim that I was going to make is that, especially in the United States, we are deeply entrenched in, you could say, a far right, but I'd say like a general soft right Christian theology, where it's embedded in society so much that we adopt sort of Christian frameworks, whether it be Christian or otherwise, in determining what is good and what is bad. And then what's happening is that's also interacting with how like we consume media and stuff like that. Like, I think in a lot of ways the Christian theists kind of won insofar as they've got so far where they determine, like, we as casuals in society already have an idea of like what is and is not over sexualized, what is sexy, what is attractive, and then even like anything that challenges that is considered just like taboo or something you ought not to do. There's plenty of examples of this, but
it used to be kind of normal to just see somebody attractive in a bikini or whatever, right? As far as marketing goes, if you're a model and you're going to be showcasing makeup or clothes, they are obviously going to pick somebody who fits the idealization of what look they want to present. Okay, so I don't think that I think we are far more polarizing and more taboo today than obviously we were 20 years ago in the marketing world. You can't disagree that it's not like sex is everywhere. So if Tuna is saying that we're over sexualized, I would agree with that. But I don't really understand what he's complaining about.
well, I mean, that's a reflection of society, like, and that's why, like, for me, I'm really interested in like kind of understanding what people believe is good and what people believe is bad. I think a lot of people have like very unthoughtful reflections of what makes something good and what makes something bad, including things like sex. So when there are these sort of conversations of like, well, I just want my game to be good, and it's like, okay, so attractive women can't be in good games. Well, it's not that. And it's like, okay, well then what is good?
Right. So
and I
wait,
think
Joe,
what tends to happen is for some people in their argumentation.
Joe, because you weren't at the beginning of the conversation, but the reason I brought up Quiet from Metal Gear Solid as an example was not because she's attractive and attractive women in games are bad, but because the point of her character in that game is to be pornographically attractive. It's like, hey, she's almost naked. She walks around with a bikini where she's just barely covering her nipples. When she's in the helicopter with you, she's presenting her ass to you and shaking it around just for no really good reason in the game other than Kojima wanted a hot character to be in the game that he wants girls to cosplay as, right? And when I'm playing that game, regardless of how much I enjoy the story, regardless of how much I enjoy the mechanics, regardless of any of that, that takes me out of the game because I realize I'm not playing a game right now where I'm involved in the story. I'm aware that people can be
my question is,
this is all subjective, obviously. I'm saying this is Gooner stuff that ruins my suspension of disbelief in this world. So that's my problem with it. I think it should be better integrated if you're going to put hot people in.
Okay, so all right, so I really need you to parse this out, Soy, because you keep dodging this question. What makes you are, but let's just ask the question plainly. In your eyes, what makes a game good?
Just anything. I mean, the gameplay mechanics.
What makes
the story,
a game good?
Whether or not
So
like it has. Why is Tuna having an aneurysm because I said that? Like, this is kind of irrelevant, right? Why are you?
No, it's
what are
not.
you
Trying to
doing?
reel you
Why
in
are
like
you
a
hanging
fish.
yourself? Okay, look, my
What
point,
makes
never
a
mind.
like,
good
I
He
like
was
game
on a
good?
whip.
This is the
for some
stupidest
reason.
question I've ever heard in my entire fucking life.
Yeah,
What
it is
makes
still
a game good?
yeah, like
Yes,
You're
what makes a
abstracting
game
to
really
a
good?
level
subjective,
of
you know? If
dribble.
it's fun and it hits
And you
like
can't
it's
To be
explain why
fair,
it's a
yeah.
valid
And if you can't,
question either.
Tuna,
if
can I
you
just
can't,
say,
It's so
like,
broad.
But I could talk
It's
about
it's
this
not
for
broad.
hours.
Right,
It is
though.
It's
incredibly broad. I
absolutely
could
not
talk
broad.
about this
So
for
when you
hours.
say good, do you mean quality or morally good? Right, those are two different things,
I'm
right?
thinking
No,
quality,
he's talking about quality.
obviously, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
but
I'm
that's a
talking
little
about
bit
the
more
quality of the
complex
game.
than
Like
I'm
action
with
games?
Soy on
Do
this
you
one.
like dwelling
Okay, so
games?
what makes a game good for
Yeah.
you? It's
Right, I like
What
the
Just- you can just
mechanics, I
answer
like
it.
the
What I wanna
characters, I like
know.
the
You can
writing,
just
I like
answer
the
it.
sound
It's-
design, I like all sorts of things in games, especially if the core gameplay is fun, and there can be hot people in that game, and it can still be amazing.
I'm
It
not
can
talking about hot
accentuate the
people.
game.
We're just talking
Well,
about games
that's what the
first. We'll
panel's
get
about,
to
so
that in a
that's why
sec.
it's a very weird question to
Yes,
ask.
there's
right
two
now.
parts to this question. That's why I'm asking this
There's
one
also two parts
first.
to your camera. You need to
God
fix it.
damn.
I
set
that
this
is actually
up.
true too.
Joe,
I set this
can I
up
get
frantic.
an example?
No, wait,
An
Tuna,
example.
let
Joe,
the man
fine.
ask his
Let
two
me
questions.
cook.
Let him ask his
Goddamn.
two. Let him ask his
Yeah.
two questions,
I
and
want
then
to
they
get
can be
Trippy in
over.
here next. I
Agreed.
want
This
to
is
get
the health
Trippy
inspector,
in here
bro.
next.
Your kitchen's
Hold
full
on.
of rats.
Hold on, just real quick. If you want to kick, hold on. If you want to kick people, you can. But it's going to be $20 minimum.
Oh
So
god!
that's
Wow,
$10
you know
more.
Sarah only charges
Let
$5.
the man
Damn,
talk.
bro, he's
Yeah,
trying to get
I'm
us
a
all
little
cooked
more
out.
high class, so you know.
I
Okay.
poke him in the belly too. I'm a poke him. Poke. Poke.
Jeez.
Joe, finish your question, and then we'll go.
Is your confliction this? When a game conflicts with my moral framework on what is good and just for society, are you against that in games?
No, absolutely not. And my moral framework doesn't say putting a over-sexualized character in is bad morally. I don't even think it's bad morally. I don't think porn is immoral. I think it's detracting from what would otherwise be a better game, a more quality game that has a more consistent tone, that is not injecting porn in places it doesn't need to be.
So when games present moral frameworks and ideas that you are against, it doesn't necessarily affect the game per se, but it affects
It
your
can.
desire to play it. Is that a
Sure.
correct assessment of your
and
judgment?
just to give an example,
Holy
just to make
shit.
sure this is
Ass is literally a
absolutely
moral
clear,
Goddamn.
framework.
just to give an
A
example of this, I'm
jiggling
not
ass
sure.
is a moral framework
Wait,
to Joe. I'm just
Tuna,
saying.
let me give an
No,
It's
example.
not. It's
no,
not.
no,
What
Joe.
exactly is the
This is-
complaint? Is what
Wait,
I
let
want
me
to
let
know.
me
What is
let me let me
asking
try
here?
it. Let me try to
Orwellian
steelman this.
Or
Okay.
can I just give an example to
Joe.
make this like super clear?
No, it's cool.
Go.
Sure, go
Well,
for it.
really
Go
quick.
for
Go
it.
Okay.
ahead, but then
So
I'm gonna
say-
follow it up
say
with my
I'm
own
a game
example.
developer and
Sure.
I'm making a game about killing demons, right? And this is, by the way, I'm going to use like a Bayonetta adjacent analogy, right? But this isn't exactly. It's okay. This character's going to go in and kill demons. It's a story about saving the world from this an oncoming demon incursion, right? It's like, okay, that is a world that I can inject myself in and enjoy. And then at the very end, he says, and you know what? The main mechanic of this game is whenever you use your powers, your character gets more undressed. She gets more naked the more powerful you are. As a player of that game, I would say, no, this isn't immoral. This isn't like a sin against God, but it's very out of place. It's very fucking weird. It makes me feel uncomfortable that I'm playing this game that should be an enjoyable game about killing demons, and now I'm like, okay, but there's this like pornographic element to it. Like, what the fuck? This is clearly just meant to market to people who are horny for the main character. I think that sucks. I think it's not in place for what the story
I think that is a
is.
projection you're casting onto the game.
You're
Like,
projecting a moral. You're
particularly
casting a
with-
moral
with
I just
judgment,
think it's
as well.
worse.
and then
No,
Everything
no,
else
no,
in
no,
the
no,
game
no,
is
wait,
not
hold on,
moral
wait, wait, wait,
judgment.
I'm gonna have we're
No,
gonna have to order in this court.
Reality
Order in this court.
is subjective.
Hold on,
Everyone
I know
who
it's
isn't
next.
talking, please.
I will. Okay,
Let the
I'm gonna
woman
mute
speak.
Everyone.
Reality is quite
I'm gonna
subjective.
mute everyone until they stop talking. Okay, everyone, stop. We're gonna go one at a time. I know you all want to get in here, but my God, we need order in this court so we can have an actual conversation. I want to give it to Ice Beans, but I know Trippy's been trying to get in, and I want to give it to Trippy exactly after Ice Beans. So after Ice Beans go, then we're gonna give it straight to Trippy, and then we're gonna give it to Cersei, and that's the order we're gonna go in. Go ahead,
Okay.
please.
Okay. Basically, what Soypill is like, what he has a problem with is the exact same problem that I have with the Wilhelm scream. I know it's an iconic piece of fucking history or whatever, but every single time I hear it in a movie, it just takes me out of whatever zone I was in, and it makes me think, okay, oh, there was a Wilhelm scream. Didn't need to be used. I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
out-
give a
it's
shit
out of
that it's
place.
iconic, right?
You're now
Like,
thinking that
it's-
you're watching a movie, right? It's like, wait a minute,
Yeah, and-
this is actually kind of hurt the integrity of this film because now my suspension of disbelief is ruined. I just recognized a voice clip from a 1920s
So basically,
western or
so
some shit.
basically,
right?
But
you
here's
wish
the-
to
no, wait,
protect
hold
your
on,
immersion, is what the two of you are saying.
That's
You
part
want
of
to
it,
No,
protect
yeah.
your
it's
immersion
not an
into
immersion
the.
because here's No,
Okay.
because here's where I disagree. Because I disagree with Soy Pill in the sense that, like, for me, the Wilhelm scream, I bitch and moan about it in the moment, but then I move on, right? I'm not actually going to boycott the fucking movie because they use it.
And
I'm
Ice,
probably
what if the
going to give the
Wilhelm
movie
scream
more
was in
shit
the
if I
center
hear
of
more
your
than one
screen at
Wilhelm
all
scream.
times for the entirety
Right.
of the game?
I mean, I just think, but I'm pro-titty in the sense that, like, for me, the Wilhelm scream, if it got bad enough, or if it was just like an issue that I actually cared about, I would just not watch that movie, right?
But now we're
For
back to the
me,
market
it's more
analogy,
like,
and I'm going to say if the Wilhelm
yeah,
scream plays every other voice line in the movie, it's probably dog shit. And if that movie made $500 million at the box office, I'm going to try to get as many people as I can to say this is bad, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to make sure we never make anything like it again.
yeah, but
Why
here's
would you?
my
So
It's
It's
my
their
problem.
argument, but
Hold on. Everyone,
Oh,
before everyone jumps in, I did give the mic to Trippy.
that's true.
Trippy's
yeah.
got to get a chance to play speak.
Ah.
Go ahead, Trippy.
Oh. What were we talking about? No, I'm
Yeah, are you?
fucking
If you're
around. I'm
just here
kidding.
for
That's-
eye candy, we're gonna move you because you're not as
Oh,
eye candy as some of the
I'm
others.
just messing around.
Bruh.
Look, if there's a sexualized character in a video game, it's just like the arguments back in the day about comic book characters and women shouldn't be so scantily clad in comic books. Dude, there are literally animes that are based on women getting stronger as they lose clothing. Like, come on. This is more of a Japanese thing than an American thing in that same exact fashion that you're talking about.
Wick, I'm glad
But-
you got this guy on who's just like 17 steps behind in the conversation from Sarah's panel. This is so much more
How
fun
about suck
now.
one? Anyways, you never have a
We've
fucking
already
argument to
sucked
make other
5.
than something
That's the problem. We're
fucking-
on the 6th cock.
Huh?
Okay,
You're
so
licking the
so
first
so
pair of
I
balls.
So
Sorry,
Soy
sorry.
likes to argue
I don't think,
hypotheticals
Tuna, I don't think you're
constantly.
one to talk about cocks right now, okay?
Soy likes to argue the hypotheticals all the time, but if you actually bring reality to the guy, he has no idea what
You know,
to
like
say
low IQ
except
people
for
can't
you're
literally
stupid, you're
like understand a
stupid.
hypothetical.
I know
this is
how
like
you
literally
argue.
like a anthropological phenomenon of like studying.
You could have
So-
said that in
people's
4
brains.
words
So-
instead
so-
of 27.
I mean, like I kind of get what you were saying, right? Where there's certain like aspects of media that subvert your immersion within it. Sometimes that immersion can be a good thing, like that like pulling out of that immersive experience that can be effective. But the difference that I'm trying to understand is that it sounds like Soy Pill is making sort of moral claims around these
It's
things
not moral.
without
More than
fully
quality claims.
standing
without
like-
fully biting the bullet, basically.
Yeah, biting
No,
the bullet, saying
what
like
bullet
he
this
do you
is
want me to bite?
You have to be fair to what he's saying. It's not immoral what he's saying. He's saying the quality
Well-
or the
well, no-
integrity of the product is damaged when he sees these sexualized
right.
elements.
That's a moral claim. Like
Well,
he's saying that
it's not
like
a moral claim.
this
It's
for
quality
it
claim.
Hold on.
is.
Joe, let me
It
be clear.
is,
It's a personal
If you go on
preference,
Steam right now and you
though.
go
Yeah.
to top
Well,
sellers,
It
if you
doesn't
go on
matter for the
Steam-
personal
to be clear,
preference.
No,
Tuna's
I-
the
I-
one making
Let
the
me
moral
clear this up,
argument.
please, because
Right,
this is
Soy,
a claim about my
Soy,
claim,
I'll
right?
just
Go,
I'll just ask you this. I'll just ask you this
before
way.
you even ask the question, because I'm pretty sure I understand that where the disconnect is. If you go on Steam right now and you look at the top sellers, and there's all these literal porn games, right? Like literal games where the goal is to have sex. I don't think this is immoral. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't want to ban it. I don't think that we should stop making those. I just think that I don't want
Okay.
the elements of those games that are pornographic to start bleeding into games where it doesn't really make sense to be there. I think those are worse
So-
games because they're not consistent. It has nothing to do with morality.
So if the developers make the argument that the sex is in there for particular purposes and can substantiate that,
There
you will
could-
have no
yes,
problem with
there
it.
could be more ambiguous
It
ways
makes
where it
sense,
might
I
fit into
think.
the story. Yes.
Okay, actually,
So
here's
wait,
the
so
question.
how do you, so
We
like
fully
so
knew
what
the
if
scenes in
happens?
Baldur's
So
Gate
what
3,
so
which
what
I've already
happens?
defended.
What happens
Can I ask-
what happens if you disagree with the developer's presentation of why it's in there?
Well, then this is the
Doesn't
whole
matter.
debate, right? Like if I
It does
disagree-
matter.
It does
No,
matter.
no,
doesn't
It
actually.
just does matter, right?
To-
I can look
As
at
a consumer, he
Stellar
can
Blade and
disagree
call this
with
a
that
Gooner
all the
game.
time,
Many
yeah.
people might not call it that, but you clearly see this when people get frustrated when they cover up the like very obvious like cleavage shots that don't really make sense to have on or to wear, but are there to make an overly sexualized character. And it's just like, yeah, like people are doing this for this reason. And sometimes it's Kojima who comes out and says, I just really like putting a hot naked woman in my game. Like, sure, there's going to be disagreements, but that's the entire point of all media. You can disagree with the author's intent. We could disagree on what it really means. We could disagree on why people are buying it. But that's the whole point of the conversation. Like what happens? Like, I'm not asking to live in a world where only things that I like exist. I'm just pushing back on these Gooner games because I'm like, I think these suck.
So
but you're
Soy,
asking
Well,
you're
okay, real
asking for
quick, can
people,
I ask-
I think
however,
where I
to
disagree-
collectively
Okay,
go
Soy,
against.
are you
Like, no,
asking-
no,
hold
wait,
on,
but
hold on, hold on.
he said
Real-
he missed a part about that. I don't want him to run away from that. You want people to protest these things.
Not
You want people to
protest.
protest these
Not buy
projects.
them.
I'm just asking people to recognize what they're doing. Look,
No,
I'm
but
not,
you
if,
made
look,
the
if,
affirmative
look,
they ought to avoid it.
A bunch of people went and bought Stellar Blade because they like the super over sexualization, right? I'm not saying that people shouldn't be able to do that. I'm not saying it's bad necessarily that there's a market for that. I'm saying I wish that we had more money put into games that weren't stupid like that. In the same way that
So-
I think it sucks
think
that
it's fair to
Lilo
call
and
it
Stitch
stupid.
made
That's
You
300
guys are
million in the
circling the
first
drain,
weekend.
and we're
Okay,
gonna
Yeah,
move
like
to a
I just
different
want more
person.
people to have better
We're gonna get-
taste. That's what I'm arguing for.
we're
He
gonna
doesn't
get
want to
more
engage
people.
with that. It's fine. We can move on.
What am I
Yeah,
not
we're-
engaging with?
Well, he is engaging
got-
with. He just doesn't agree.
Well,
I've
no,
got a
no, 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 no.
No,
It's-
we're gonna
there's a
circle again.
particular.
Please, oh my God, no.
I'm not circling. I'm just
Let him
closing
try
it
one
out.
more time. Let
You
him
don't
try one more
understand.
time.
You don't
'Cause maybe I
understand what I'm
understand your
saying.
question.
You
Yeah,
clearly don't understand what I'm
Please
saying
try one more
based
time,
on
'cause
how
I promise
I'm
I'm trying. I'm
projecting
not
it.
running, so go ahead.
This is
What the fuck did you just say?
I say I promise I'm trying. I'm not running, so please try one more time to
Yeah,
say it in
I'm not
different
gonna
words.
try. I'm not gonna
try one
try
more time.
anymore. I'm not
Do
trying
not try one more
anymore.
time.
Hey,
Get-
Wick, you got super chats, honey. You got. Are you?
I'm
oh,
going
Yeah,
to get to
you
the
got
Okay.
some super
comments.
chats.
I'm trying to get them.
He's-
Okay, yeah,
He's
but
trying to
thank
host
you.
the
Okay.
show, darling.
Soy
I know.
pill, real quick. Do you
I've given
now
him a
that you've
leeway
heard
so he can get a
Hold
now
break
on,
that
to
you've
do it.
heard
Ice
now
Beans,
that
please. Oh, Ice Beans, please. I do gotta make a little money, so we are
Okay, go
gonna
ahead.
get there, and then I'm gonna get
Look,
more
I can hear you
people
guys.
in,
I'll be right back though.
and then
but
we're
I
gonna
can
try not to
hear you.
circle the drain too much here, right? So $5 from Zim Eats Waffles to say, would the sex scene in Conker's Bad Hair Day between the
Ooh.
sunflower and King Bee be considered porn?
I've played this.
I have never played that game in
Yes.
my life.
I played the hell out of that game as a kid. It was on
Okay,
N64. That's
I don't know.
it's a very comedic sex scene where they have the bee and the flower like go off screen, and then you hear her reacting and him reacting, and then they go back to it. So it's like I wouldn't really say that it's like overly done or anything like that. It's not like not in your face, but you know what's going on as long
flower-
as you're an adult.
You can
Wait,
take it out
so
of the
like
game,
the-
and the game doesn't change.
That's
The
So remove
leaves-
it.
Wait, the leaves of I'm just saying the petals or whatever you call it, the fucking leaves on the stem. It is worth noting that they are tits and that you do use them as a trampoline. Like
Yeah, that's why it's
it
M-rated.
is. It's
That's
very
pretty good.
similar to Wick taking his shirt off in that it is sex for a joke.
Sex for
It's not sex,
entertainment.
Okay,
It's sex
Oh
for
my God,
entertainment.
that was
Anything,
so-
male
You
male
don't
bodies
have to
are,
put the
are
man down like that.
desexualized
Holy
and
shit.
hold on.
humiliated.
I got more. I got more. I got more. I got more.
Okay.
I got more. $2
got more.
from Testicle Johnson to say boobs out for Palestine. Thank you
That's
for
right.
the
Now,
$2.
what you could do here is you could blow Star up so she's the full camera.
Oh
And there you
God.
go.
And this is
boobs
why
out
you
for
don't
We're
get
not
the
gonna
Sarah
do that.
regulars on your show, Wick, because it keeps
Look,
us
there are
so fucking
limits.
retarded.
I'm
I'm gonna
just
boycott
curious.
Wick panels if
Look,
this is how
so
it
if
keeps
you want
going,
to talk
dude.
shit, dude, you can come on my show and
Yeah,
talk
I
I'm
will
shit.
gonna
You
never
can talk
talk
shit
shit
to
to
me.
you.
Enough!
If your
Enough!
show's anything
All
like
of
you
you
are,
shut up.
it's probably
But if you're
dog
gonna-
shit.
You. I'll
Star,
give
are those
you-
God? I'm just
But-
very curious.
I'll hold on. No talking. No talking while I finish these super chats. Good. Go. $10 from In Pursuit of Knowledge. $10 to kick Joe and bring me in. No, we don't do that unless you pay me 20. And then $10 from Zemi Wassels. Did Witcher 3 win Game of
Can
the
I
Year?
respond to that because that was
Well,
directly targeted towards me? Or are we just gonna let that fly?
what response do you have to
Yeah, to
kick
be fair.
him? And yeah, what
Yeah,
response do you have?
this man, that account has had a hate boner for me for at least 3 years. He knows personal information about my life that he brings up in casual conversation. If you see that account in Pursuit of
Speak of
Knowledge,
it.
you got to avoid him. Like I'm telling, this is a call of action to people who are within streamer communities. That man is clearly not well. He donated $10 to kick me, but he's also berated me in multiple discords, just me directly, and talks about me behind my back. And there's VODs and clips of him doing it. It's really, really bizarre. So if you engage with that person, please just avoid him.
Okay, I'm not bringing all that in here. $10 from Zims Eats Waffles to say, did Witcher 3 win Game of the Year because of the sex scenes, or did it win Game of the Year because of the story?
One Game of the Year because of the gameplay, probably. The story was also very good, and the sex scenes in that game, to my remembrance, I haven't played it in a while, were pretty good. Like, they made sense in the game. It wasn't like, yes, like, go fuck, you fucking Gooner. It was very much like a, hey, like, you've now romanced Cersei enough to sleep with her and stuff like that, but I could be misremembering.
From the
that
guy
makes
that
sense.
wants
Yeah.
to make the little snide remarks and call people stupid, but is too afraid to actually talk.
Okay. I do want to
So
stick
Ooh.
on to the point and not have this turn into this little nippy back and forth. A little bit's fun, a little bit's good, but I
yeah, a
do
little
want to
bit's
kind of
fun. I'm not going
engage
to
with the
like
actual
target
topic
the guy. Yeah.
of the day. Okay.
Sounds like some drama there.
Yeah,
No,
there is
not
some
Okay.
really.
drama there, but we're gonna move over the drama, and we're gonna
Can
give.
I go back to okay, real quick, like Soypil, earlier somebody explained why the was it a sniper lady who could breathe through her
Quiet.
skin?
Can breathe.
Yes,
She
that's
was like
quiet. Yes.
Okay.
photosynthesis through her skin, and that's why she needs to remain naked.
Okay, hold on.
Well, she's
So
not. She's
somebody
only
in one of
mostly.
the super chats, somebody like said that it's basically like one of the given explanations. It's cool because she doesn't have to breathe, and so I guess it makes it easier for her to be a sniper. Does that change your opinion on that at
No,
all?
because
Or
it's so obviously made up after the fact to justify why he has the naked character in it, right? Like if I put a
Okay,
naked character
so-
in
Made
and
up
said,
after the fact. How?
But,
What's
but
your
my
proof for that?
question is,
well, hold on,
I
wait,
can
I
put
have a
two
follow-up.
together,
I have a
and
follow-up
he
point.
You
didn't
guys
come
all
up
have
with
to
that
hold on.
concept
For
first.
follow-up,
Yeah, hold
actually.
on.
I
I'd
have
love
to
to
say
hear
this.
her out.
Hold on, all of
Yeah.
you, shut up. My God, if you can't behave, I will just kick you off the panel. I have opened this up because someone canceled last minute, and so we loosened it up a little bit. Maybe I won't do that in the future if this is going to keep going like this, right? We got to keep it a little formatted, if you will. So please,
You like
let
this?
people-
Stop.
Look, there is a time and a place. There's a time and a place, right?
Okay.
I want to hear
so,
Ice out.
So basically,
do too. Nice,
like, so
okay.
you're saying it like it to you. It obviously sounds like it's a it's a ad hoc justification. Okay, and I don't know anything about this character, but I would be inclined to agree. I think that what Joe was maybe kind of hinting at was that you're saying that now, and I'm agreeing with you, but there could be other things where you think that the sexualization is too far,
Right, it could be
where other people
subjective.
might just see it. Well, yeah, so I guess how do you account for that kind of thing? If you're saying, like, I mean, I understand, are you just saying that, like,
look, I could be wrong
it's
in
just
some
your
of these
opinion, man?
assessments. It is just my opinion, although I do base that opinion off of like watching lots of different types of media and seeing how people are portrayed sexually in different ways. And certain ones, it's like, okay, this makes sense in the story. This looks like it has writer's intent. Or I've literally watched like the writers at the table discuss why they made a character a certain way versus what is very clearly obviously like a goon thing. Like if you look at like this goes so
Sure.
back to like the original Metroid game, right? They didn't make her a woman because it was like, we need a strong female character. The character doesn't talk, right? The reason they made her a woman is because they thought it would be a good reward for you to beat the game quickly and then see a naked person in the bikini at the end. Because it was like, isn't this cool? Look at this naked person, right?
You can't
Okay, but
simultaneously
I guess
be
my-
naked and in a bikini, though.
You understand the point, buddy. Come on.
Okay,
No,
my
his point was,
No,
I
your
guess
point's
it was
bullshit.
somewhat sexualized to some degree, I guess.
So
but
sort of my conclusion to that, though, is that, like, I do see what people are talking about when they say that you are bringing a morality into it, because it isn't just that it is your opinion that you avoid these games. You're actively saying, okay, I would like to here's what society should kind of take forward, moderate
if I had to choose
yourself, which
between
is
a
fine.
rotten
I
apple
agree.
and a tasty apple, and I say the tasty apple is better, is it a moral choice that I'm like, I like
No,
this
but
one
no,
because it
no, no,
tastes
no.
better?
It's
Yeah, I
not
don't
a
understand
no.
why
It's
you
not
guys
a
keep doing this
dichotomy
to
like
him.
this. No, it is
Well,
not.
well, it
It's
is because I
not.
think
It's
the
not a choice
He's clearly
between. Hold on.
market
It is not a
versus
choice.
consumer.
No,
at
No,
that
no, no,
point.
no.
promise
It's
you,
not
it
a
is
choice
dichotomy
between
like
a.
this.
It's not a
Because
choice
what I'm
between a
saying
rotten
is not
apple.
it's bad that people are naked. I'm not saying it's bad that people sexualize women. I have not said any of those things tonight. What I'm saying is when it is out of place, when it is clearly the intent is an afterthought, an injection, a point to appeal to a young male audience in a way that really does not fit into the story, yeah, I think that's worse, and that becomes the
No,
rotten apple. It's not the
but you
tasty
don't.
apple.
But here's the
Yeah,
thing. No, but here's the thing is that, like,
Real
what
quick, Ice
you
Beans, we gotta
say
move
is
on to
like.
other people.
Yeah, okay. And now I'll let go of this point. But basically, my point is that what you see as excessive or what you see as out of place, not everyone is going to agree on that. That's
I
my
agree.
point.
No one's gonna agree on everything. It's an
So,
irrelevance,
but
honestly.
you are making a moral
Can I-
standard.
Sure.
You're setting a moral standard.
Yeah, that's my
point.
point.
Ian,
Yeah.
can I try something?
We're gonna give it to
Oh.
Tuna, then we're gonna give it to Xerxes, then we're gonna give
Take
it
it away.
to emergency.
Okay.
That's the order we're gonna go in. Go ahead.
As the more moralistic, I guess, or like the more leaning on the moral argument, although I wouldn't even describe it as moral because ethical, whatever. The whole point of like this idea that there's a line in the sand and there are divisions only comes into play when people are talking about changing a methodology of what goes on and doesn't go on a platform. None of us on this side of the argument, from what I can tell, are talking about limiting or banning sexual content or pornography. My primary argument is that this has an effect on people, and the effect is one that reinforces itself. It's an effect that is very fun, very pleasant, obviously. That's why it spreads. And I'm thinking of this in terms of like, I do not think that it is good to have a personal sexuality that does not conform to your culture, because then you are not going to be able to connect to people with your sexuality. If the culture you're inside of is very sexual, then obviously the sexuality you're allowed, or I shouldn't just say sexual, is very public or is very kinky, very extreme, then you should meet that. I don't want people to just like be hyper Protestant or some weird shit. I'm saying that when somebody plays a Gooner game, the effect is that they are facilitating the development of a personal sexuality that is private, that often they're embarrassed about, and if they're not embarrassed about, someone will shame them for, which will cause a division between them and the rest of their culture. The same thing is true when somebody has the opposite, somebody has a hyper conservative affect inside of a culture that's more liberal. You're going to have to bear that brunt on your own shoulders. And most people are not willing to do that. And they need to understand where that's coming from. Well, how are they becoming sexually radicalized? And it is by stuff like this. I mean, we had the last guy on, Lore. Lore said
stuff
that
like what again? When you said stuff, you're speaking to.
Come again?
When you said stuff like X, Y.
All right.
What's the stuff here again?
I don't know the sentence, but I can point to the examples I'm about to get to, which is
Okay.
Lore, the person who was on the panel just a bit ago, said he thinks that 3D humans are gross. This is a person who is writing the erotica, right? So what are we developing in a culture where people think that actual physical IRL intimacy is gross, and Star Nova has her tits out and says that she's not a sex worker?
To be clear, this is the moral argument.
You can have
not
your
mine.
titties out and not be a sex worker.
No,
Not in America.
Tuna is making
God,
a moral argument. I'm just saying that.
Doesn't he?
I'm just saying that, like, Soypil, you are bringing you're not just saying this is good for me, you're also trying to put it out onto other people. Or you're trying to say that, hey, this shouldn't be a trend where we, like, go down this level of, like, Gooner games.
Can I clear this up? Because I don't think you guys understand this.
Good, better taste that more aligns with mine, then I guess that's morality, but that's not what I would call when I think of, like...
But it is...
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it's... I'm not saying it's like... You're not saying you're being puritanical or anything. I'm just saying that, like...
But hold on, team, listen, can you stop for a second? It seems like you don't get this, right? From his point of view, this is a quality critique of his immersion or his enjoyment of the product, right? That's all he's saying. He's saying that I don't like, even just think about like The Last Jedi. Let's say you don't like the character Holdo. You think that she's goofy, whatever, stupid, He's saying I would want less characters like that. Just for example, just understand. He's not saying that it's wrong to have a character like that. He's saying he doesn't like it and he wishes to encourage other people to follow. It's not a moral thing. It's a quality
That is
thing.
absolutely a moral claim.
No.
Okay,
but here's
for example, let me give you another example. One more example, right?
Oh my God.
If I want more games like Kingdom Hearts 2 instead of Dark Souls 2, that's not a moral thing. I'm not saying Kingdom Hearts 2 is morally good. I'm saying the product is enjoyable and the gameplay is superior to Dark Souls 2. That's what he's saying.
Okay,
so
but
I just want to ramp. I just kind of want to see where Soy's at on this. Maybe this can parse this
that was
out.
A good steel man
Soy,
real quick, just saying.
Soy, do you think
No, I got
rape? Soy, do you think that rape is an immoral action?
Yes. Hot take.
Okay, great. You believe that rape is an immoral action? Is that correct?
Yes.
The volcano take right there.
If a video game depicts a rape, is that an immoral action?
No.
There it is. Explain it.
Okay.
if a movie or a video game has a immoral action in it, is the movie immoral? Of course not. Like I can watch a movie
Why?
about the Holocaust and not think the Holocaust is bad, or oops, not
Oh,
think the
whoa.
movie is
Whoa,
bad.
whoa, whoa,
Sorry,
whoa,
I
whoa,
mask
whoa,
off
whoa.
everyone.
It's too easy. It's
Are
way
you like
too easy.
cancel?
It's way
But
too
yeah,
easy.
no, like, is that not clear that like if the media portrays a bad thing, the media itself isn't bad unless it's advocating for it, right? Like if the game was like
Yeah.
go rape people, I'd be like, yeah, this game's bad. But if the game's like, hey, your character gets raped, this is part of the story, it makes sense in the story. For example, people call out rape
How does
scenes
it
in
make? So walk
how
me
does it
through
make
that. How does
sense? Because it's
something?
a real
How does
thing that
something
happens
makes?
to real people. It can shape their
I
character.
mean, it
It can maybe a
happens.
trauma they have to deal with. This is a
Okay.
reality
funny.
that people deal with every
Okay.
day, and the idea that we can never have rape in media because it's bad is insane. Because it happens.
I never said that. I'm just trying to see
Well,
where
you
you
seem to be getting
stand.
on my case for saying that rape in media is not immoral, which of course it isn't inherently immoral.
Right, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
trying
mean,
to
it
see the
happens all the time.
content. I'm trying to interrogate the content as to why you hold that position. That's all. That's
The
it.
content, yeah, I hold the position because the immorality would be encouraging a bad action that hurts someone, not portraying a
So
bad action.
I mean,
so it's only immoral if the game encourages the immoral action.
It's not
I guess-
only.
I don't like to say
It's not
the
the
absolute
only
like
case.
that, but that sounds kind of like what I'm saying. Yeah.
There are okay, Joe. How
what's
many?
the point, though?
I make a movie and it's an exploitation film where I have
Yes.
500 black men go out into the streets and rape white women.
What is it?
I believe
That
that
would be an
exploitation
immoral-
film. I
immoral-
believe that exploitation films are morally wrong, and I want that outlawed in my society, socially,
Okay.
politically, and
So
economically.
you know that obviously depictions of rape can
Mhm.
be immoral.
I would not. I would
Mhm.
outlaw rape in films.
Why?
That's my
Really?
stance
Why?
because I believe it's an
Happen.
immoral action,
Why?
and I don't
No.
want immoral actions
Would
in
you
my
would you
films.
outlaw
Okay.
murder
Would you
in your
outlaw
films?
killing in
Have you?
films?
Has this
Yeah,
man
everyone
watched
wants
a
to
red?
talk, but no one's going to talk except for me right now. Please, Joe.
Yeah.
Would you
So
outlaw murder in movies
yes,
and games? Interesting.
yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, bro.
you're
Okay.
no.
So you would
No
outlaw
way.
any
outta
immoral
here.
depiction.
Joe.
You would say.
I do not agree. I do not agree with content that is trying to, especially games. We're talking about games, right? I do not want games immersing people into those experiences
Man, go play fucking
because
Hello
I
Kitty
believe
Island Adventure.
that the
Then you're gonna come
cultural
on here and tell me
consequences.
bad games is
Let
my
me
moral
ISO. Can
stance.
I
You want to
ISO?
moral
Okay.
legislate
Let
your
him
entire
finish,
morality?
Yeah, let him finish and let me argue with
God,
this
this
one.
is so dumb.
Let him
Is
finish.
it?
Yeah, that's
Joe.
Oh,
Let-
so like
yeah.
so
I
that
think it
that's
is
dumb.
foolish. I'll
But
tell you
what you
why.
doing?
I can tell you.
Why
I
is
can
it?
tell you
Why
why
is
it's
it
foolish.
foolish? Why is it
I'll
foolish?
tell you why. So number
So
one.
what's my position?
Video games,
Rearticulate my position
if
so
I
you know what I'm
understand your
saying.
position, to be fair, right now, if I understand your position, you were saying that it is immoral and you would outlaw any immoral depiction of any violent act. I would say. So we use murder and we have rape. Would that be the case? Could we also have like robbery? Armed robbery. Would that also? Is it any depiction of anything? So just rape is covered in the umbrella.
Violence.
Emulations. So what I'm speaking to, by the way, is emulations, right? The idea of
Okay.
extreme
So a
suffering.
character acting in the act itself, right? So the character performing said rape.
I consider certain actions extreme suffering. I do not think it's
Mhm.
healthy for a culture or a society to participate in games that engage with extreme suffering.
Okay.
Consumed specifically as entertainment as its purpose.
Okay.
Joe,
So here's why I
are
disagree.
you going to get rid of Brothers in the Hood?
More than that, right? The
Are you
issue
going to
that I
take that off
have
the shelf?
is that well, hold on, because I think this is an
No,
interesting
the movie.
In
conversation.
particular
You're gonna remove
games.
House MD.
He's talking about games. So games are interesting as an art form because they are immersive, and that's the core of what he's saying. And the reason
He
why I
said movies,
disagree
too.
with these
Kuna keeps
depictions,
bringing
he
up
did
the
say
race
movies, but
stuff
he
in a
did just
very
clarify the
sus
games,
way, I
right?
gotta say.
Now, the reason why I think that this is a wee bit silly is because video games offer, because of their immersion, one of the best ways to convey a message and a story to the audience that they are participating in. So, for example, let's just use God of War on top of my head, right? So, the original trilogy has Kratos being an absolute horrendous human being, and in fact, the third game is particularly gory. So we go into this awful depiction of Kratos, and then we have the fourth game where Kratos, as a story arc, has to battle his older self. That's what Baldur is. If you guys are familiar with the story, Baldur is more or less the mirror image to how Kratos used to be, right? because of all of the awful things Kratos did and the immersion as a player, you also get to immerse yourself in the redemption arc and the reflection of how awful this is. If anything, it can help you understand regret and mercy more because you are the individual who is participating in the actions instead of someone who's just on the outside looking at it or hearing about it. So I don't
Source's
agree
wild
immersion
red
is bad.
pill
I think immersion
opinions.
is great.
He's
And
spinning
you
right now.
immerse
I like
yourself
this.
in a protected environment that is the video game. Now, are all video games like this? Obviously not, but God of War is an example off the top of my head.
The
So,
risk that I see is you turn these things into potential normalization of those extreme acts.
Those are
so
already
much
normal,
so
Joe.
They're
Rape
already
and murder
normal.
happens
Yes,
Yeah,
those are
he's
already
right.
normal.
time.
I was very close to
Okay.
talking about a couple of countries over in the
And
East.
these
No, but
games
now
are
what
Don't
are you
worry.
saying,
they're
Joe? What are
portraying
you
them
saying?
as
Are you
bad.
no?
Oh,
Try to
The
shit.
reason that the reason people are saying that it's normal is because now you have to not only just explain why your rationale is the way it is, but you have to like answer how are we going to put the cat back in the box. You can't.
Yes.
Like I
I can.
remember
I
one of the
absolutely
first
can.
times
You
I remember
absolutely
in
can do
GTA
these
whatever
things.
where you chainsaw hookers and then pick up their money. Like I did that as a kid.
Joe, to
Right,
put it in
because-
perspective, the way that we did sex
Holy
in this
shit.
country for a while was we just
So,
didn't
like, you-
talk
I
about
mean,
it.
you just have to
Parents wouldn't talk about it
explain.
with their kids, and yet everyone's
I'm
having sex,
Yeah.
right? And when you allow people to
trying so
experience
hard.
like sexual, like aggression, like these very bad, horrible, traumatic situations, what you can do is expose people to the idea of them, how to deal with them, how to process them with them, how to avoid them. But if you just don't portray it at all, no one knows about it. Period. These education.
Why does a game have that responsibility?
It's
Well, it
every
doesn't
single
have
No, it's
culture.
not
If you're
about it
only
being
restricting
ability.
games,
It
like
has
I
the
guess
ability.
that's
You
It
just
can
talked
be
about
sad,
how he just
Hold-
talked
hold
about
up,
how the
hold up.
game games are taking this
Can I jump in here?
responsibility of making these cultural,
it's part
moral,
of part
and
of the media.
ethical
It's not just
arguments.
games. It's not just games.
Can I hop
So-
in a little
Yeah,
bit
it'd be
here?
stories.
Go ahead,
anything
Trippy.
different.
You're not.
God damn.
Yeah, let's
You just have to
Trippy
go
in
in
a little
there.
bit.
You
Trippy,
just
go
have
ahead.
to get in
All
there.
right. I believe what Soy is saying is like these games can have very good storylines. They can teach lessons. They can show people going through things and
Well, I'm the one that
developing as
said
a
it.
character as the game goes on, right, Soy?
Sure,
I am saying
you
that.
can
Thank you,
do
Trippy.
I
those
would think that he's
things.
giving it that fairness, but you also
You
can
can
show.
do those
Listen,
things.
but
It's so
people
simple.
go through traumas, though. You've gone through trauma.
Yes.
I have. And we've
Yes.
grown and learned and
Yeah.
become ourselves through that trauma.
And we don't need games to do that work
But video
for
games are a
us.
visual medium. Video games are a visual medium, just like
Okay.
movies.
Yeah.
Just like movies.
So
Just like
I really don't think you
And
quite
books, yes.
understand this, but that's cool. That's cool. It's why I just kind of threw it out
Video
there.
games aren't just for children.
Well, they very
Video
clearly
games are
aren't just
made
for
by
children.
adults for adults, as
What's
well as
the
made by
what
adults
is
for
the
kids.
function? What is the purpose of a game?
It's
a
for
game
you to
is
have an
for-
experience.
An experience? Games are just about
like watching a movie.
experiences.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the
No,
game.
there's-
And to have fun.
Entertainment
There's,
to
like, so
convey a
many
message.
different-
Yeah, I mean,
It's a
It's too
versatile medium. What's your point?
Are and games at their core are entertainment. Their
Just like a
goal
movie.
and objective is to entertain people. The thing
Mhm.
that I'm trying to outline as a risk is that a medium designed for entertainment that is trying to drive profit as something that Starnova admitted outright that these developers are only trying to drive profit and these type of things. It seems a little dicey
What
to
about
be
movies?
engaging
What about
with
TV
extreme.
shows? What about any other form of media that is entertainment that is going to be driven by profit? Should those things not be able to portray real life situations that are bad?
I think they
Has to
should.
be a
Would say
level
yes.
of, you know,
Isn't that why they
There-
make genres?
that
you
has
know,
to be
genres?
applied
Should
to
Breaking
real
Bad
life,
have been
you
a
know?
story about
It
a
has-
man trying to pay his bills by
Star,
working
Star,
3 jobs
Starnova.
instead
Star, was
of
that you that said
making
that?
enough,
Was that you that said
Yeah,
that, Star?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
said something
like-
about genres.
like,
That's why they have
what's the-
genres, right?
This is
Different
why we have
genres.
genres. Like,
Have
I'm
we-
not
what-
denying.
okay.
I've never denied that genres exist. I'm speaking specifically about games
Mhm.
because these are entertainment drivers. Sure,
is
documentaries
movies.
can be entertaining, but the function
Okay, so yeah, right. So
of
what
the
you're saying
genre
is
of
fictional
documentary
media should not
is
be able to portray
different.
immoral acts. That's what you're telling me right now, right?
I have no idea what you just said. What was it?
Fictional media, as in movies and TV shows or video games, should not be able to portray immorality.
And we'd have to lose things like RoboCop in that case.
But by the
Well,
way,
first
Soy
we
Pill,
could agree to
I take my take back.
God.
Joe's trumped everyone on the morality thing.
This is what morality
He
arguments
said,
look
"My
like.
bad,
Not about
G."
I think this game's better. It's I think that this is an immoral act and we should get rid of it. This is the puritanical thing.
This is a fundamentally silly argument, because then you are actually talking about, for example, there's a really good old movie called Speak. That's one of
Yes.
like Kristen Stewart's old like first few appearances, or whatever
Very
the
good
fuck
movie.
it is.
Very
Okay,
good movie.
Stewart's
what? And
not
you
old,
do you
though.
think that it shouldn't exist because it talks it centers around rape?
The thing that I am paying attention, and just to be clear, I don't hold this position. I just knew it would rally motherfuckers up. So that's
Oh, what?
Fuck
no
off.
notes. No
Man, you're
notes.
Haha,
capping.
I was just
No.
pretending to be retarded, guys. Great.
telling you.
Awesome, dude.
I'm just
Buddy,
saying.
Game
I'm
on
just
here.
saying.
I don't want to hear
No,
that.
actually,
So,
okay, Joe,
but-
Game
I'm
on
actually
here.
mad now.
Get him
Joe,
out of here,
I'm
I
actually
mean-
mad
Whatever.
now.
No,
now
no,
I'm
no,
mad
but-
because
no,
I
I
thought
Haha,
you were
you
gonna
guys
take
got
this-
But
upset when I
means-
said fucking
I thought you
stupid
were gonna
shit.
take this
Yeah,
into-
okay.
I'm
No,
sorry. I
Ice
thought you
Beam.
were
Get him
gonna
outta
take this
here.
to interrupt this.
Throw him out in the
You
cold,
not-
Wick.
Hold on,
Get him
hold
out
on,
of
hold
here.
on. We're gonna get
Ice Beam's
$20
not.
while
Yeah.
I process that to say this from Alexander Rin. Thank you for the $20 to say, if not games, then what or who? Also, why does gaming have to be limited to entertainment? All forms of storytelling has told stories to teach people. Joe is an idiot if this
No,
is
no.
his thought through
Mhm.
belief,
He was
but apparently
kidding.
it's not his thought through
Yeah,
belief.
he's
So let
goofy.
me.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
let
wait,
me.
actually,
so
go
so
ahead,
alright, so alright,
Joe.
so you
Save
brought
yourself.
Quote
so you
Save
brought this
yourself.
up.
advocate.
You brought that. You
Save
brought this
yourself.
up, right? Right. So
Save
you brought
yourself. Go
this
ahead.
up because Speak is a
ahead.
fantastic example.
Yeah.
Deep ass cut. It's good for you. So the thing that I'm paying attention to when it comes to content, especially content around serious subjects. So a serious subject could be essay. A serious subject could be certain historical events. I think it's very important for whoever is making these mediums to understand their role within the genre and then how they can responsibly cover that particular genre, right? So for instance, take Speak, right? This was a book that I had to
No,
read
Triple
in,
M.
I think it was
It's not
middle
that.
school at that point.
I don't
It
agree
was
with
like a
censorship
required
either.
middle
I
school
never
reading
did.
for me.
Same.
And
Yeah, I never
it's-
actually. To be fair, I didn't actually really watch the movie. I read the book.
Yeah,
So-
we did both. We 'cause
Yeah.
they didn't care in the 2000s. We watched the book and watched the movie and just got signed a permission slip and been done with it. But but the thing that happens is, and this happens very often in musical environments, right? Like when you like certain aspects of musicals, right? There's a way that you need to hold the content to a level of respect and then responsibly presenting that to the public. And sometimes that can get very, very blurry. An example of this for
Yeah,
anybody that's in musicals, right? Like it's really dicey when I see schools do public presentations of certain musicals that have some dicey material. I can't think of a really solid example in my head, but there's different depictions of rapes in musicals, outright rapes in musicals, sexual violence, entire drug scenes, domestic violence. And then, like, one of the things that I always find so interesting is that when these things happen, audience members, which essentially are kids, are just laughing at it. And then like I see teachers get like, how dare you like laugh at this thing? And it's like we haven't built the culture or ethic to have children usually of like high school age to like broadly understand like what's happening with these things. And then my question is like as somebody who like isn't within that particular field, is like what do we do with that type of content? Or like if we know that there are particular intense moments. One that comes to example is Sweeney Todd, for instance. How can we convey that work in a way that is responsible relative to the audience as accepting that thing?
Okay.
And there's been different responses to that. That's
Okay,
the
we do
thing
need
that I'm
to get
concerned
more
about.
people in. We
I'm
need
glad
to
you
get,
wasted an hour
different-
lying about your position so you could say that point at the end. That was awesome, dude.
Okay.
You could have just said
Just
that.
just FYI, housekeeping. We are the well's running dry, gang. You aren't giving me enough money, and if we don't get here, I'll give the number. If we don't get $50 in the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna cut the stream off. So if you want this to keep going, $50. That's how we do.
Chat, if anyone in my chat does
I do
that,
want to
I'm
get
going to
CP
do something on screen that would get Wick
CPCA.
demonetized. Okay.
I'll give
I
you
want
another
out.
chance. Go
This is
ahead.
ridiculous.
Have your point, please.
Oh my god, man. This Joe guy, such a windbag. Anyways, I
Soy
wanted
talk
to
more than
say,
me.
essentially, okay, that at the end of the day, right, there is no, I guess you would say, clear direction for where culture
Guys, let me be perfectly clear. Like, usually I have fun on these, and this was fun for a little bit. But if Wick's panels are going to turn into this every time, I'm going to message him after this and be like, dude, if you turn into the Sarah, like, ridiculousness, I'm done. Like, I can't keep doing this shit. It's so ridiculous. Max 4 people. Even that's too much.
real politique, okay, to sexual discussion. I think
True.
if we apply more realistic
No, I said,
goals,
please, for the love of God, do
more
not extend
firm
it, Ash.
understandings, okay, that we will be headed towards, I guess, a better future. And that's what I wanted to say. Just a small piece, okay? Because
So you believe,
Yeah.
so CPCA, so you believe that substantive sexual education might help alleviate this problem that we're currently dealing with?
It depends.
Do you believe that there's substantive sexual education?
I mean,
Let's start there.
no education can prepare you for the real world, I guess.
Okay.
Well,
okay,
sure.
Just real quick. I want to keep this on subject, and if we go into education debate, it's not going to be on subject.
Well, it's not about education. It's just,
Okay.
I think it's reasonable to say that men have problems with their tits getting small in games is because we don't have comprehensive sex education and the external world. I think that's a reasonable assumption to make.
Excuse me, I would like my tits to get smaller, personally.
$5 from Mori Memento to say, I've learned today that unless you use stripping has something to do with the overall narrative of the debate, it is pointless, thus I cannot support it. Oh, well,
So sad,
that's
so
okay.
sad.
Thank you for the
That's so
$5.
true.
I
So
want
true.
to give the mic to Star if she has any thoughts, because she's been fairly quiet for a bit.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure she gets a chance to get in here. And I want Xerxes to get in here too. Go ahead, Star.
I kind of feel like Joe and whatnot are kind of in support of censorship.
Yes, I'm
Well,
100% pro censorship.
I'm not for censorship in that way. We've already established guidelines in the industry for many of the industries, right? And it's kind of carte blanche, all about the same. And I do believe that things are being over sexualized, and especially getting to the kids, and that's where a lot of addiction and things come from, because obviously, between the porn, the gaming, and drugs and everything else, it's all dopamine hits, okay, which is very addictive and ruin people's lives. But for the most part, I mean, we're all adults, aren't we? And you have different genres, and you as an adult can choose and pick what it is that you want to watch or do. I don't need you censoring things for me. I had a mom and a dad once.
And your mom
that's not the government's job, is not to be my mom and my daddy.
Well, I think, okay, so, I like this. I like this a lot. I don't think your parents were any more or less capable than my parents. My parents were probably just as shitty as yours. And your parents shouldn't be the only metric of you determining what the world should be.
But that wasn't her point.
Like, no, but I'm saying that, like,
the government shouldn't restrict her ability or anyone's
the government should
my mom and my dad, huh?
I mean, sure,
Yeah,
but
that's
like
her
the
point.
government should No, I'm using that to lay out the point where if we understand that like mothers and fathers are completely incapable in most cases to properly acculturate and socialize a child, then who else is responsible for that? That's the question I'm asking you.
Me?
It wouldn't be the government.
You directly.
I mean, it literally is right now.
Are teachers not the extension of the government?
I mean,
Not really.
Me or him?
They're
government
with
mandatory
in public school. They are government employees.
By the state is absolutely an extension of the government. Yeah.
Yeah. So the government already has a stake in your kids. So like, I'm just trying to figure out like, okay, who else should have a stake in your children besides your parents?
I mean,
well, the problem is everyone, including their friends, also has a stake in their children, right?
So including the government, then, right?
Books, sure, the
Her
government.
answer was nobody.
But her
There we go.
point was that
nobody.
You shouldn't be restricted from the media you want as an adult. That's her point. You have to argue.
That was my point.
Yeah.
So we
was
shouldn't
it.
be.
But hold on. I look. I think there's a more interesting angle to go down here, and I'm just really curious, right? Because Star, you mentioned over-sexualization. You think that the society's become over-sexualized. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that?
Advertising, where music videos have went. It's went from, everything's in massive amounts of extremes, which is inundating people. Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for the $100. Okay, Alexander.
Oh, wow.
Keep going.
You hit your goal,
I know,
sir.
so it feels like, oh my God, pain.
Well,
That's
I can
okay.
leave whenever I want, right, Wick? I'm not beholden to you.
That's true. I'm not. You can leave at any time.
No, don't leave, Soy.
Yeah,
don't leave.
First of all, I'll get to that in a second. But
Pretty
before I
soy
forget
of
my
him,
question, right? So, Star, though, if you're complaining about over-sexualization, you do understand that you are contributing to it, correct?
Yeah.
How am I contributing?
Look at your melons.
Holy shit!
You're hot. That's how I guess.
Just a
you're
second
hot.
here.
Why do you think you're on
This is why you
panel,
keep me around,
Nova?
Wick.
You think it's
Okay,
because
You're
of your
an
really smart
attractive
opinion?
lady.
I need
No,
to
I teased this out.
Let her answer the question.
hear Wick out here.
You understand, right, that you
I'm
are
gonna crash
contributing
out.
to it with your outfit.
My regular old tank top that I've had for like 4 years.
I mean, I'm not complaining about it. I
At
don't mind it
home.
at all. I'm
Right.
not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying that
Right.
it does add a sexual element that would otherwise not be.
Holy
Well,
fuck.
she
Good
can't
luck.
really
I'm
help
I
not
could
doing
save you,
sex-
Wick. I'm
I'm
gonna
not
let you
doing
dig this
weirdo-
hole.
I'm not
trying
doing
to
weirdo
include
sexual
that
acts.
message.
I'm not overt
Hold on.
or
We're
anything.
not asking.
Can't
second.
breathe.
You're not overt, but like what he's trying and failing to say is that
Yeah, I see what
you
he's
have you get it.
I
But
can't
that,
Well,
breathe.
I'm not
that would
like-
with
mean-
those things,
that would
He's
be
trying to
a
say you have
puritanical-
some nice
that's a
titties.
puritanical
That's-
approach.
No, those are
Well,
implants.
Star,
Number one.
Star,
Okay.
you should be asking if they're under the impression that your chest is fake, because I know it's not.
They're not.
It is implants. Okay, I've been
No, it's
screaming.
not. It's
the
not
past
implants.
hour.
I've
They're
never said
fake.
that they are
Okay.
fake or
You know
anything
he
like
paid
that.
you to do that.
Wick.
Why are we
He's a
asking
paid.
this?
Wick.
Yeah, those
I've
are
never
fake.
had any plastic surgery.
Wick.
Not
Am I,
even a little.
let me
I
try to
definitely don't
understand what
advocate-
you are trying to say here. Because
I'm
goddamn,
saying what I mean.
I
saying
mean,
she
yeah,
can't help
I'm,
it.
Being very
I'm
coy
aware.
about it, Wick. What
Are
you're
you
trying to
trying-
say is the reason that Nova has been invited on this panel is not for her genius opinions or charming
Yeah.
personality. It's
Yeah.
because she has huge tits, and you saw that last night on Sarah's panel,
The
and you
same
invited her
reason that
onto
you
the
were
titty
invited
debate.
on the
That's what
show.
you're trying to
Right.
say.
Yeah.
I'm
What's
glad we're
wrong
having
with
this
that?
amazing
Genius.
conversation.
To be
Bro,
fair, right? Yeah.
You're thirsty. You're thirsty. Okay.
Yep, you're
Marketing.
thirsty and she's got the milk. Oops.
Marketing.
It is. Look, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's immoral. I'm not saying it's
God.
even wrong. I enjoy it, right? But it's there.
I prefer fun
and
conversations,
If we want to talk
honestly,
about
Wick,
over
but-
sexualization,
Yeah,
and
I
we
agree,
want to
Soy.
say that that's a problem, then I think, like, obviously there are other outfits you could have chosen to wear that would be less revealing than what you have on.
Okay, Habibi, calm down.
Well, she
God
can
I-
tell
damn.
you.
I'm
Wick,
not
Wick,
trying
Wick,
to
I gotta go.
advocate
Can I
for
say one
your
last
Here,
thing
I have
before
the
I go,
devil's
Wick?
advocate.
Wick,
Say one
Wick,
last
Oh,
thing
yeah,
before I
let's
go.
go.
Say one last
Wait,
thing.
wait,
Hold on.
wait.
Soypill's got an outro.
This is the
Soypill's got an
only
I got an
outro.
place
outro.
where
Look,
I will
Okay,
I
please.
don't want to legislate morality, guys. Okay, I just think that there are ways that games cannot be cringe. I don't like cringe. I want less cringe media. It is a zero-sum game. Money has to be put into these things. Publishers only have so much money, and I don't like that they're using this weird, like, marketing tactic to make what I would consider worse quality games. That's all I really have to say about that. And just because, Star, you've been over-sexualized, I'm going to give you this opportunity to prove you're smart. What are the 4 components of GDP that non-fawn
No, I'm not
has
doing
to
that. Hold
about?
on a second. I want
What
to
are you-
redress
or-
that.
or-
Hold
by the
on.
way,
I want to redress
Let
something.
her
She's
address
wearing a
anything.
tank top and she looks cute. All right. Or I'm wearing a tank top. I'm an H cup. It all fits me about the same way.
That's a fair
the end of
argument.
it.
Now, what are the 4 components of GDP?
I'm not doing
Yeah.
this with you.
Okay.
I'm not doing this.
All right, I tried. Thank you,
am
Wick.
not
I don't
doing
even
this.
know.
It's been
Wait,
great.
Hold on,
Before
before
you
you
go,
go.
before you go.
Thank you.
Soy, before
Yeah.
you
You know
leave,
what
before
they
you
say.
leave.
I came here for
Before
you.
anyone
Don't
else
be
goes,
fake.
before anyone else goes, I
Everybody-
gotta
Hold on,
read the
let me just-
$100 super chat. I really do. I
He
really do
does.
gotta read this $100. Okay.
But at least let me say this to Soy while he's here, right? Because
Okay,
I
okay,
actually
real quick.
I actually
He's-
would like to have a conversation about this because here's the thing. I understand your argument, but I would like to actually expand on it. And I'll be honest with you, we really didn't get to do that. So by all means,
Let's do it later,
but
man.
just
DM
to
me.
tell you, I think adios, dude.
Hey,
Yeah,
what's
and
up,
wear
Wick?
a
I gotta
less
read your
revealing
question.
shirt next time, Soy. God. I
Yeah,
could see
goddamn
your
boy.
shoulders
That-
or something.
That
Yeah, that'll
hat,
work out
less revealing. Get a different
That's-
hat too. It's sexual.
Dirty
I'll see you
slut
later,
for
buddy.
money.
Oh, that pickle
All right,
Rick
Hey,
in the
we're all
back.
fair,
We see.
man.
We know
I
what
ain't got
you're
nothing
up
All
to
right,
to.
you
Soy
know
Man.
why
We
that
know
is.
what
Good
you're
night.
into.
Hi, Soy.
Okay, wow. Oh God, I can't do it. I can't do these anymore if it's gonna turn into that every time. That was so dumb. Got a DM Wick about that. He knows how I feel though. I don't usually leave early. Okay, guys, some housekeeping. All right, new videos up for members. Okay, the ad has been approved, which means I think people who aren't members and not patrons will get it very soon. I've been approved, I believe, for Tim Pool on Friday. So I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna try to make my best argument, and I'm probably gonna say some things that are aggressive, and we'll see if I ever get invited back. That'll be a lot of fun. Look forward to that. Otherwise, no streams that I can remember upcoming. I think maybe next week I've got a couple, but then the Curtis Yarvin video is coming out. So have fun. Have a great night. I have to figure out what the topic is and phrase it. I'm going to be debating, I think, John Doyle, who's like that. I got to do some research on him. I think he's like a weird, like 1950s, like, goddamn commies, and we got to go back to the picket fence, and I have my wife and Chad, and it's fucking trad wife or whatever. Anyway, that'll be fun. Enjoy the video, members. People who aren't members, how dare you? But also, it's fine. I don't mind. It'll be coming out soon. But just so you know, you can watch it early for as little as $1. Yeah. Have a great night. Have a 1 to type the end deep state. Stroke my roke, and yeah, look forward to Friday. I will try to put on a good show for you guys. Put some suggestions, maybe actually, right before I go in chat. I think I have a beanie. All right, so I'll definitely bring the beanie. I'll bring the hat, obviously. I'll bring up lots of research about him getting paid by Russia, but it might not work its way into the conversation naturally, so I'll have to bring it in as a non sequitur. Wear multiple beanies? No. Shave my head bald? No, I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, he will love it. I'm gonna be endearing. I'm not gonna wear a suit or anything. White shirt. Oh, you fucking thirsty ass. All right, so guys, have a wonderful night. I'll see you on the flip side. Enjoy the vid. Enjoy the Tim Pool Culture War Friday, and have a great night.